Part 46. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 452. There were many people in the college, including adults with children, ladies holding the arms of gentlemen, and tourists carrying backpacks. The main reason for this is that many people visit the college as a tourist attraction. After all, it is a naval academy that specializes in training admirals. There are only a few in the world. Even just looking at it can be used as a source of conversation in the future. If you come to Chuangziu, you must come and take a look. It just so happens that this period of time is not class time, and outsiders are not prohibited from entering. On an October afternoon, the sky was cloudless and the sun was still shining brightly. "Hello, Instructor Zeppelin." "Instructor Zeppelin, why did you come back to the academy?" "Even at the Naval Academy, since you are a student, of course you have summer vacation. October is approaching the start of school, and some new admirals have returned to the academy at this time. In addition to the start of school, students who come to the college now also want to become volunteers." They had long known that Zeppelin had left the academy. When they saw Zeppelin again, their respect was not diminished, but they were also a little confused. Zeppelin waved his hand and said, "I'm just back to help." She teaches in the academy and always behaves with dignity. The new admiral shows respect and does not have much thought of getting close to her. After all, those who wanted to salvage the boat in the past were all severely punished, so they just said hello and let it go. While greeting people, Zeppelin walked through the aisle between the two teaching buildings. Standing under an oak tree and looking around, she once again saw the pair of sisters she had seen before, or rather the admiral and the ship girl. To be precise, it should be said that they were talking to Cologne, an employee of the college, and they were standing next to a flower bed with many shrubs. They were far apart, so naturally they couldn't hear what they were saying. "Can't hear, but can see." Zeppelin saw the short-haired woman writing something, and then Cologne waved his hand. Judging from the way the short-haired women lowered their heads and slumped their shoulders, Zeppelin guessed that they probably raised some questions or requests, and then received a disappointing answer. The conversation didn't last long, and then the long-haired woman bowed deeply, and then the two people left, talking as they walked. Zeppelin didn't go into details, she wanted to move on, and then she saw Cologne waving towards her. She waited there for a while, saw Cologne running closer, and said, "What's the matter?" Cologne said, "The two people just came to find Akagi and asked me where Akagi is." "You have been with Akagi all the time, so let me tell you, do you recognize them?" Zeppelin looked at the two figures in front of her from behind. Even if she had only seen them once before, she still remembered them. However, those two people had no impression at all. She shook her head and said, "I don't know. What are they doing with Akagi?" "They said that they heard that there is a very powerful Akagi instructor here, so they came to take a look." "Since you don't know him, I guess it's like after Akagi became famous in the past, many ship girls came to challenge, and many came to learn." "Ship girls. Some come from various garrison towns, and some are wandering ship girls." Chibolin nodded slightly. In fact, not only Akagi, but even she had met many people who came here with admiration. You just said ship girls, are they two ship girls?" "I don't know, I'm just saying it casually. It's also possible that the admiral who doesn't know the heights of heaven and earth wants to come and rescue the ship. Unfortunately, Akagi has been taken away now. Speaking of which, they are really beautiful. I think they must be ship girls, but forgot to ask." "Since you don't know, forget it, it doesn't matter who you are." The two walked along the corridor, chatting. "More people signed up this year than last year." "Yes. I heard that you will be leaving in a few days after the exam is over." "Yeah, I've been here for a long time." Colin said, "Speaking of which, Zeppelin, I made an appointment with Yamashiro and Omaha, let's go have hot pot together in the evening. Zeppelin hesitated and said, summer, hot pot. Colin laughed and said, it's exciting to eat in the summer. It was rare that she actually invited herself. Zeppelin did not refuse. She said, okay, but I still have to go to the dean's place again. Let's meet somewhere later. I'll accompany you to the dean's place, and then we can all go together. In the evening, he went to have hot pot with others. After finishing the hot pot, Zeppelin returned to his house. After taking a shower, I went to bed quickly, as I had patrol work the next day. Some ship girls are very casual as invigilators. Even for such an important exam, they still don't do their best. They must patrol and supervise. It sounds like a coincidence, but it shouldn't be called a coincidence. While inspecting the exam that day, Zeppelin saw the two pairs of sisters again. They were in different exam rooms. The inspection work is not very busy, mainly because there are not many examination rooms. After all, it is not easy to take the Admiral examination. Either you were introduced by the country, or you have a letter of introduction, or you at least already have a ship girl. Of course, if you are good enough and come here and recommend yourself, the college will not be able to consider you. Zeppelin looked at it and thought to himself that both of them were able to take the exam, probably because they were recommended as outstanding talents. Anyway, Zeppelin was a little curious. She first went to look at the sister with long hair. She must be the older sister. She was more stable between the two. Generally speaking, the older sister was more stable than the younger sister. She has long brown or black hair and a beautiful and dignified appearance. The long-haired sister is holding a pencil and answering the questions very carefully. There are many questions. Under normal circumstances, you only have 1 minute to answer each question, so it is not best to skip it. My sister looked very attentive and answered the questions at a very fast pace, which made Zeppelin very fond of her. If possible, it would be good for someone like this to become an admiral. Good looks and excellent self-cultivation are bonus points, and ship girls are no exception. After looking at his sister, Zeppelin went to her sister again. The short-haired sister was not answering the questions as nervously as others. Zeppelin walked over, raised his head and glanced lightly, without any nervousness at all. The younger sister also answered the questions very seriously, which also made Zeppelin very fond of her. However, the good feeling only lasted for a short time. Zeppelin saw that his sister had answered a few questions, and seemed to have encountered a difficult problem, so he did not choose to skip. There were only 4 answers to the multiple-choice questions, so my sister stretched out her hand to mark on the test paper. When Zeppelin was in the garrison, he also taught those little girls to study. When those little girls took exams, they would use their trump card whenever they encountered difficulties. 3 long and 1 short is the shortest, 3 short and 1 long is the longest. Then just like that, Zeppelin saw that the other party had done several questions using this method in a short period of time. In addition to this, write the letters on the eraser, and then fill in the answer with the eraser. Otherwise, tear the draft paper into several pieces, shape them into a ball, and draw lots there. Are you kidding? This is the attitude towards such an important exam. If you can live like this, God must be blind. Zeppelin stood nearby for a while. Many of the questions were asked by her, so of course she knew what the answers were. She looked at the test paper, and even though she answered the questions in such a random way, she was actually fooled a lot. She looked at the candidate's name, Li Yulewin. Is there such a name? Where is this naming habit? But think about it, the world is so big and there are all sorts of random names. She remembered that there used to be an admiral whose name was Zhang Daniu. Such names were common, and Glazed Coral was a nice name, although it gave people an unreliable feeling. However, no matter how curious he is about people, Zeppelin also knows that he can't stand by them all the time, which will put a lot of pressure on people. After thinking about it like this, she walked away, just thinking that she must look at this person's test paper afterwards. How many points can a person who behaves like this get? Then ask Hinata, who is responsible for the registration of candidates, who recommended him. Zeppelin walked around several examination rooms. When it was over, he went to look at his sister again. She was still answering the questions attentively. Then I went to my sister's place and returned to my sister's examination room. I wanted to see the girl again, but I saw that the seat was empty. She whispered to the invigilator in the examination room, "Where is the person in that position over there? Submit the paper in advance and leave." "Did you just leave?" She left very early and she finished all the questions in one go. The paper was handed in early. Such an important exam was actually handed in early. This is the first time Zeppelin has encountered this situation in the long time she has been in the academy. Most of the people who can be recommended are powerful people, and it's not like Zeppelin has never seen powerful people. However, no matter how good I am, I always want to check it again when I have time, and I never hand in the paper in advance like this. Finally, I thought about the other person's behavior during the exam, and I guess he gave up on himself. The exam is divided into upper and lower sections. Because it is somewhat similar to the exams in some countries, this kind of exam is called a practical test and an application test by some people. When it comes to applying, even her sister is answering the questions seriously, which makes Zeppelin feel a little relieved. After the exam is over, you can start marking immediately. Zeppelin still wanted to leave early and return to the town hall. She didn't mind reviewing at night. You don't need to worry about cheating like ordinary people do when taking exams. You still need to cover your name during marking. You don't need to worry about cheating from the ship girls in the academy. Zeppelin deliberately took out the test papers of the two sisters, looked at them, and started marking them in advance. She compared the answers and read them bit by bit, and then, the sister who did the questions carefully could basically judge that she failed. Next was his sister. Zeppelin thought that there might be no hope for her sister. Looking at her, unexpectedly, she had just crossed the line. This night, Zeppelin banged his head. She's messing around, she's messing around, she's been through this, no one else is lucky. When Nelson saw Zeppelin, he looked like a fool and said, "What are you doing, Zeppelin?" "Nothing." With that said, Zeppelin handed Nelson a test paper and said, "By the way, take a look at this test paper. What do you think? This role, you want me to do it? I'm not good at this." Although they are both instructors, everyone has different personalities. Nelson is better at fighting. She has no problem marking the exams, but she is not good at the essays. Zeppelin said, "It doesn't matter, you get as many points as you think." In order to prevent herself from being affected by her emotions, she deliberately handed over the essay, in which the subjective opinions of the marking officer accounted for a very important part, to Nelson. Nelson didn't know why, so he took the test paper and looked at it. After all, she said that after staying in the academy for such a long time, she still had a good perspective. The answers to the questions on the test paper are very casual, but the ideas are very clear, and it is clear what should be done and what should not be done. Nelson said while reading, "I like this kind of article. It's plain and simple. It's not like some candidates who always deliberately use some weird terms. I hate that kind of formulaic article. We want to recruit admirals, not an agency. The unit recruits people to write materials and reports and talk a lot of nonsense. Some of the methods of handling are not very good, well, they are quite satisfactory. At least right and wrong can still be clearly distinguished." After looking at it, Nelson tapped the test paper with a pen and said, "Well, I especially like the answer to this question. The question is, what do you think of battleships?" Then she answered, "Big is good, and more is beautiful." Haha, I think so. This kind of answer is better than that long speech. I judge each ship girl from the performance of the ship's equipment, the character of the ship, and the consumption of the attack. Although it makes sense, that is the standard way of answering. I just don't like that answer. I like this answer, simple and crude. How should I put it? There is no standard correct answer to these questions. Even so, if you really want to say it, the answers on this paper are actually not good, and the article is not very well written. But I like it. If you want me to give you a grade, I think it doesn't matter if you are qualified. Anyway, if it doesn't work, there will still be interviews to screen out those unqualified candidates. By the way, Zeppelin, Zhuangzi's handwriting is also a plus. After taking a long time, Nelson read it, returned the test paper to Zeppelin, and said, "Read it yourself." Zeppelin took the test paper handed over by Nelson and looked at it briefly. The evaluations given by Nelson are similar, and the articles are all written in plain language. The answers express the examinee's thoughts, and it is clear whether they are right or wrong. She and Nelson have different views. She believes that black and white concepts are unacceptable for an admiral. Ordinarily, such a person is not suitable to be an admiral, but she likes the sentence on the exam paper. No matter how powerful the deep-sea ship girl is, there is nothing that cannot be solved with one wave of opening. If there is, then two waves. Zeppelin liked this sentence very much, although he didn't know how to get two opening waves. The exam is not just about recruiting a few people. If they are qualified, the more people the better. Zeppelin made up his mind to give people a chance to get into the interview. If it didn't work out, he could just brush it off during the interview. The next day, she learned a surprising fact: these sisters were shipmates, aircraft carriers. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 453. Zeppelin learned that the sisters were aircraft carriers in the mess hall the next morning. The corrections ended yesterday and will continue today. Even a ship girl needs to replenish energy. Of course, if she doesn't use the power of the ship, she can just consume ordinary food. Zeppelin ordered a sandwich and a vegetable salad without thinking about nutritional balance or anything else, and happened to see Hinata, who was in charge of the college's admissions work. She still remembered that when the other party first came to the academy, she was still a country girl wearing rustic clothes, but now she has become an urban beauty. She was a little curious about the pair of sisters yesterday, so she deliberately sat next to each other. "You're talking about those sisters, they are the aircraft carriers Shokaku and Ziwikaku. My younger sister is called Li Yulai Coral, and my older sister is called Yu Lingdang. They are very strange names. At first glance, they are pseudonyms. There is no such name anywhere. Is the surname Li Yulai or the surname Moon? They obviously look like sisters. Even if they are translated from foreign languages, they should be called Catherine or Lilia. The translation is usually a transliteration, otherwise Cecilia. Besides, judging from their accustomed greetings and actions, their names should be similar to Sato, Kana, and Sakai. But I recognized them not because of their names. After all, there are weird names. The main reason is, well, except for the lists that countries directly handed us, you can also come with a letter of introduction and bring the ship girl with you. It's okay to come here. Come with a letter of introduction and don't show off. It's easier to be discovered if you bring a ship girl here. If you don't pass the admiral exam, there will be people around you like brown candy, wanting to return to a peaceful life. Not easy. I originally wanted to tell you, but you just happened to mention it. Anyway, it's quite funny. They didn't have a letter of introduction. First, the younger sister brought her older sister to sign up, and the registered ship girl was the Shokaku. Then the older sister brought her younger sister to sign up, and the registered ship was Ziwikaku. They deliberately separated themselves by a few days, and even deliberately changed their clothes. I can still see it at a glance. Actually, my sister doesn't want to take the exam, they just want to compare who is better. By the way, you have to mark the papers today, remember to tell me the results. Zeppelin said, it's already out. I specially picked out their test papers last night. How is it? My sister is probably the best. Zeppelin held his forehead with his hand, thinking of what he saw in the examination room, and smiled bitterly. His sister must have been lucky. Although I guess the opponent still has some abilities, just throwing dice, drawing lots, etc., those methods of answering the questions are very stressful. My sister passed the line. Hinata was stirring the tube bone-preserved egg porridge with a spoon, showing a surprised expression and said, it's actually my younger sister who passed the test. I can't tell. I can't tell either. I thought they were just playing for fun, but they actually passed. Well, what about the interview? Are you letting them go? Are you really going to be their admiral? Zeppelin said casually, it depends on their level. This is the day when the exam results will be released in a few days. In the corridor next to the notice board, a long-haired woman was looking around with an anxious expression on her face. Ruhi, where have you been? After a moment, a woman with short hair took her arm. Sister Xianghe, why are you lost again? I just left for a short while and you actually came here. There were a lot of people, and they were squeezing and squeezing. I just looked at my results, and then I turned around and lost sight of you. I squeezed out of the crowd, wanting to wait for you nearby, so I just walked around and ended up here. The short-haired sister, Ruhi, feels a little helpless towards his sister. Although she is gentle and virtuous, she is unexpectedly a road addict and can get lost even at home. You can't change this problem no matter what, you have to be by your side. I have long been used to it, and I am not even interested in complaining. Ziwi said, my grades are over the line, what about yours? Ah, you actually passed. I'm still a little bit behind. You suddenly came up with the idea of taking the exam, and I didn't have time to read. I haven't read a book, I just passed it. It mainly depends on my daily accumulation. Xianghe also felt a little helpless. She had worked so hard, so she responded, oh. Speaking of which, I just looked at the notice board and felt that my name looked weird on it. Glazed coral, I wish I had known it was called Cafutamino. I remember that the admiral liked this name very much before. You're not a little girl. Where's Tent and Zarise? They don't seem to match, otherwise, I'll call you Maya Iho, and you'll call me Ujimatsu Senya, how about that? I said you can't give it a serious name. I've heard these names many times before, and they suddenly came to mind. Forget it, I've already taken everything. Well, you've passed the written test, so you won't really go for the interview. I suddenly want to experience what it's like to be an admiral. The two of them stood in the corridor talking. Because of their good looks, they naturally met many people who struck up a conversation with them. It was a man with a crew cut and a sunny look. He said, how are you? The questions are really difficult and the knowledge coverage is too broad. I feel pretty good. I passed the test naked. Unable to show off his superiority for a moment, the man said, where are you from? It feels so familiar. And you? Chiba Prefecture. I don't want to tell you. Beautiful women always have many privileges. If it were a more ordinary-looking woman, the man would probably want to leave after hearing this. The beauty was different, he didn't mind at all, he just took it as coquettishness and being wary of strangers. It took a few days from the written test to the interview. Did you participate in the training class? Is there such a thing as a training class? Yes. Although it is important to have a kind and persistent heart, ability is also the key to random interviews, so training is still needed. That's it? By the way, what do you think the image of an admiral should be? If I were to be an admiral, I should be a caring admiral. Ruhi smiled, showing his white teeth, and said, let me tell you, what does an admiral look like? He should be so tall, and when he smiles, sometimes he feels quite evil, as if he is saying, mine, it's all mine. It's strange, I quite like that smile and eyes. I think she has an average appearance, at least above average. She loves fruits but not vegetables. She likes big ships and cannons, and she likes washing floors at openings. Actually, the little Lolita like it too, that's another kind of liking. And there's more. Xianghe looked at Ruhi, she pursed her lips and thought, from appearance to preferences, you are basically basing your judgment on someone. When the man listened, he could tell that the short-haired woman was describing her in the exact image of her sweetheart. The beautiful girl already has a sweetheart, which makes people feel a little disappointed. After continuing to say a few words, the man realized what was going on and left. Ruhi said, what should we eat later? The rolled powder is ready. I want a big meal. Anyway, let's go out first. Walking down the corridor into the bright sun, Ruhi put his hand on his forehead and complained, it's so hot, I like rain clouds. It's almost autumn and it will be cooler then. It's autumn already, it's already October. Ah, forget it. It's so hot, there's no autumn here at all. As they walked and talked, they suddenly heard a voice behind them. Etc. Looking back, they saw a woman with silver-gray slightly curly mid-length hair walking up. I am Zeppelin, the aircraft carrier USS Zeppelin. I am now in charge of admissions. You two are the ship's girls, Xianghe Ziwahi. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 454. Walking out of the Naval Academy, this is Kongming Road. Less than 100 meters away along the road, there is a small shop. The shop doesn't have a name. It doesn't matter whether it's a juice shop or a milk tea shop, it's pretty much the same. In addition, the shop also sells postcards and exquisitely crafted trinkets and ornaments on a part-time basis. The business of a small store is either good or bad. The bad reason is that the prices of juice, milk tea, accessories, and ornaments are much more expensive than outside. The good reason is that the boss lady is a beautiful woman with a tall figure and a pleasant appearance. Some people even say that the boss lady is a ship girl. However, the proprietress has never admitted her identity and has never unfolded her ship uniform. Even if she encounters a gangster, she is so skillful that no gangster can take a few moves. Welcome, oh, Zeppelin, you are back, and you are bringing your friends with you. Walking into the shop, Zeppelin smiled. The two of them knew each other. Zeppelin said, I can't be as relaxed as you. I am extremely busy at this time of year. I work hard every day to maintain the shop, you can laugh at me, there are no customers now. I won't tell you, you always complain anyway, and I won't ask you to borrow money. I want a glass of orange juice, Zeppelin said. She looked at Xianghe Ruhi behind her and said, what do you want? There are not many customers in the shop, so there are still some empty seats. Zeppelin, Xianghe, and Ruhi were sitting in the corner of the shop. Before the juice was served, Ruhi looked at Zeppelin and she said, do you have any problems with us? No problem. Well, I am in charge of the exam and am also the marking officer. I just heard that you are the ship girl Shokakuzi Wikaku, so I want to take a look. I have read your answer to the question, no matter how powerful the deep sea ship girl is, nothing is one wave of openings can't solve things. If so, then two waves. I like the opening of the opening. By the way, is there a way to open with two waves? The number of ship girls is pitifully small compared to humans. When two ship girls meet, with the same identity, it feels like meeting an old friend in a foreign land. In this case, it's not surprising that we want to get to know each other. Ruhi held the side of his face with one hand and said, "Of course there is no way to open the door in two ways, it's just more smooth. I heard that you came here to find Akagya. I happen to know Akagya." Seeing the other two staring at him, Zeppelin explained, "The day before the exam, I saw you talking to my colleagues. Later, my colleagues told me that you were asking about Akagya. It was not me who was investigating you specifically. Xianghe said gently, we heard that the instructor Akagya here is very powerful, so we asked. Even if the other party is a ship girl, it doesn't mean that she has to tell everything. Originally, I came here just to see if the instructor Akagya here was the Akagya I knew. I started asking passers-by and heard that Akagya had been taken away. It was obviously not the Akagya I knew. Later, I met the faculty and staff of the college again and thought about confirming it again. It's not that I'm worried about passers-by lying, I'm just afraid that passers-by will hear stories and not understand the situation." Zeppelin said, "People like you used to come here often, but unfortunately Akagi has already gone to the town hall. If you want to see her, you can go to the town hall." Ruhi's eyes became slightly colder, and he thought to himself, is the Zeppelin in front of him trying to help his garrison salvage the boat? She doesn't like people who want to scoop up her sisters. After a moment of silence, Ruhi said coldly, "We actually heard about you, so why don't you go to the governor's mansion? It can be heard from your tone that you admire Akagya very much. It is said that the admiral of your governor's mansion is man, shouldn't a ship girl like her admiral?" Listening to Ruhi's cold tone, Zeppelin guessed that he might have misunderstood him. The ship girl was always wary of people who wanted to salvage the ship. She thought that she would say less about the things in the town hall. After thinking about it, she planned to say some naughty and interesting words to facilitate communication. Zeppelin smiled and said, "I just used to be an instructor, well, now it's almost the same as joining the town guard. It's just that you said, do I like the admiral, how is that possible? How can we fall in love if we have different genders? I long for my Akagya senior. Now think about it, am I still an instructor? If you tell me, no one will believe it. Unless something unexpected happens, you will probably live there in the future. Speaking of which, Sugu is quite interesting, and he talks interestingly, and everyone in the guardhouse is very loving. How to fall in love if you have different genders?" Ruhi did not expect Zeppelin to say such words, and indeed found it interesting. She said, "Before you met the man you loved, you always thought you liked a woman. Our admiral is a lecherous guy, although it was okay when we first met. Now he likes to say things like, if an admiral doesn't have a harem, no matter how admiral he is, there will always be people who are dissatisfied, it's better if everyone is together, such words. Shameless, if he is not a good person, I still don't want him anymore." Ziwihi went straight to the point, and she said, "We don't want to go to your townhouse. Don't worry, I'm an honest person." After Chi Bolan finished speaking, he smiled first, remembering that he had been influenced by Sugu a lot. The ship girl is easily influenced by the admiral, some speaking styles, some living habits, etc. Zeppelin lived in the garrison for such a long time, and he was always affected to some extent. However, this style of speaking made Xianghe and Ruhi feel familiar and comfortable. Zeppelin continued, "I have been working in the academy for many years. How long has it been since you woke up from the sea?" It won't take long." After chatting and communicating, both parties felt close and in tune with each other, but they didn't realize that everyone was influenced by someone. The juice had already been delivered. Zeppelin took a sip of the juice and said, "Do you want to take the admiral's exam?" Although it is okay to become an admiral as a ship girl as long as the identity of the ship girl is not exposed, but it is not. Do you know why you think this way? Ruhi brushed his bangs and said, I just thought it was interesting at first. How about trying the admiral's exam? I actually passed the written exam. You ask me what I think, I don't have any ideas. Well, then build the most powerful. The town hall is ready. As Ziwihi said, it suddenly occurred to him that the exam was over and they had just arrived at Chuangziu's side. The two of them went back to the governor's mansion to take a look and found that it had been turned into ruins. I don't know how the admiral is doing, but the garrison has obviously fallen apart. It's estimated that no one will be able to see him when he comes back. Now that the written examination has been passed, it is better to build a garrison to prevent anyone from seeing the admiral come back. Those people left and left. At least I and my sister were here. My sister should be able to become a real wife by then. Xianghe said, you didn't tell me. I suddenly had an idea. Zeppelin said, as a ship girl, you can't build it? It doesn't matter, we have many companions. Yes, just gather everyone together, and then there will be a powerful garrison. A lot of people. He was no longer as vigilant as before. Feeling that everyone was getting along, Ruhi said, many people, many. Zeppelin lowered his head and said, you passed the written test. Well, I'm not belittling you. Judging from your answers to the written test, the interview is still quite difficult. By the way, do you really want to become an admiral? I think about it, I really think about it now. By the way, let me ask a question. If I become the admiral, can I choose the location of the garrison? Look at the place, there is definitely nothing the man town can do. It's already in ruins. That doesn't matter, okay. That wouldn't matter. Zeppelin laughed, and said, you are ship girls. We will give you a little help, but we won't give you a lot if you are not suitable to be an admiral. You are not suitable to be an admiral. Is the interview difficult? It's hard for you. Ziwihi said, my sister and I are very powerful aircraft carriers. Can you put more water in? Zeppelin chuckled and thought, you are strong, how strong you are. Well, I happen to be here for a few more days. If you really want to, I can teach you. If you can understand, the interview won't be too difficult. Then teach me. The written examination and grading were over, so naturally there weren't many things left to do. Zeppelin was still able to find time during this period. She's not bluffing, it can indeed be done, she is better than the best trainers. It really doesn't work anymore, Zeppelin thought. I am the interviewer anyway, so I have the final say on whether it is good or not. You have to consider the problem as an admiral. Generally speaking, these are the things that an admiral should do. Write them down. How to become an outstanding admiral. Some questions in the interview may have nothing to do with the admiral. Just answer them according to what you think. Take some time to train Ruhi every day until the last day before the interview. Zeppelin said on a whim, you said you are very strong, let's practice. In fact, she is quite belligerent like York City. It was hard to mention her just after we met, but now that we have known her for a while, it doesn't matter. Ziwihi was fed up with the boring training. She smiled and said, okay, but my sister and I are really strong. Very strong, Ziwihi was very strong. What greeted Zeppelin was a series of disastrous defeats, a disastrous defeat with no possibility of victory. The disastrous defeat left no one unconvinced. It reminded Zeppelin of the drill with Akagi a long time ago. Her character has always been about admitting defeat, and if she loses, she loses. She no longer had the arrogance she had before. She felt that she was the best in the world and it was no longer strange for someone to be stronger than herself, although she felt a little sad when she thought about it. Originally, for the exercise, I ran to a deserted place outside Sichuan Shu. Now that the exercise is over, I am standing on the beach by the sea. Ruhi said, I am very strong, and my sister is also very strong. Do you want to practice with her once? Xianghe did not join in the booing. She crossed her arms and said softly, Zeppelin is very powerful. Zeppelin looked at the two people. The elder sister was gentle, while the younger sister was naughty. They reminded her of the Lexington and Saratoga sisters. Lexington is similar to Xiaokeku, similar in personality to a married woman, but more capable. Saratoga and Ziwihi are somewhat similar, but with Ziwihi's personality, he would definitely not like to have an affair behind his sister's back. She thought to herself, but still didn't want to say more about her townhouse. We have just become friends, and we don't want to give people the impression that we have evil intentions. If you must, wait until you get to know each other better before taking them to your garrison. That little guy Sugu has a pretty good mouth. I remember hearing him talking to Bismarck once. Bismarck said, Admiral, why are you here? Are you going to the dock too? Then I heard an extremely shameless remark. Those who want to accompany you, please follow the directions in the southeast, northwest, and northwest. I don't follow the directions, I just want to accompany you. What a powerful guy. Seeing Bismarck trying hard to keep a straight face, he couldn't hide the smile on his face no matter what. No matter how great the boat fishing is, we will talk about it later. Zeppelin said casually, I was thinking, I know a lot of powerful people, and they always lose in exercises. Ruhi smiled and said, would you like me to teach them a lesson for you? Forget it, they are very strong, really very strong. No matter how strong they are definitely not as good as me. Ruhi put his arms around his sister Xianghe's shoulders and said, they are not as good as me and my sister. For Zeppelin, it was all crushing, and she couldn't tell who was stronger. Xianghe and Ziwihi are more powerful than the Lexington and Saratoga they know. Then she thought about Saratoga and felt a little upset. That girl keeps wandering in front of him, wanting to call her senior, but he still can't beat her, even though they both use the same carrier-based aircraft. I'm so angry. When I am in the garrison, apart from being able to show off in front of York City, well, now there is an extra bumblebee who can show off in front of these two people, even Princeton is not as good as him. Speaking of which, there is that little guy who always thinks that his ship girl is the best in the world. It's time to let him know that there are too many powerful ship girls in this world. After thinking for a while, Zeppelin finally waved her hand and said, let's talk about it later. By the next day, the interview started. In the examination room, Ruhi's answers were quite satisfactory. Even so, he still passed. Zeppelin was the interviewer, so of course she let him go. Yesterday's exercise had a huge impact on her. She showed such great strength. To a certain extent, with such strength, even if she was not good at dancing, no one would dare to say anything. The only thing I need to worry about is whether I can withstand the pressure as a ship girl and an admiral. No matter what the future holds, the Academy has welcomed a super beautiful newcomer. After the interview is over, there is still some time before formal admission. Zeppelin was too lazy to worry about the rest. She thought that Akage would be back and wanted to meet him. After meeting two good people, very powerful people, with this idea in mind, Zeppelin returned to the garrison. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 455. Chibolin returned to the garrison and immediately saw Sugu. Sugu stood at the door of the cafeteria, and York City stood beside him, holding his arm, unexpectedly showing the posture of a little woman. If Xiaoze was by his side, or Saratoga was by his side, Zeppelin would still be able to understand. It was strange that York City was by his side and shaking Sugu's arm. It was obvious that the two of them were like enemies many times. When did you get together with York City? although he regards this place as his own home and his own garrison. The room was also well decorated, and important things were moved from Chuangziu. He used to be his student, but it was still a bit difficult to call him by a name like Admiral. This is probably a problem common to ship girls who have lived outside the garrison for a long time. I feel that it is very embarrassing to recognize someone as an admiral. In contrast, destroyers are the easiest to integrate into a garrison. For example, Lan has successfully become an admiral, and Cushing is still a little behind. Sugu had been back to the governor's mansion for many days. When he saw Zeppelin, he reached out and wanted to pry York City's fingers off. He pushed Yuchen away, and Yuchen pressed in again. Just looking at Sugu's words, it was a bit like, "Go away, damn woman, no matter how beautiful you are, don't stick to me. York City is like brown sugar." Sugu said, "What do you mean by getting together? I have nothing to do with York City. You guys are messing around here." She was the one holding my hand, but I was pulling her hand. York City held Sugu's arm tightly, showed a pleading expression, and said, "Admiral, give me the gale." I don't know where York City knew that Akage got 2 carrier-based aircraft after growing up. When asked privately, Sheik Hung would not give it to anyone casually, so he found Sugu. Of course, Sugu would not give it away so easily, although it would basically be given to York City or Bumblebee. When Sugu refused to give in, York City acted like a stalker and almost knelt down, so this scene occurred. Zeppelin looked at the strange pair in front of her, thought for a while and decided not to go into details. She asked, "Akagi, and you are back, right? Where is she?" Sugu didn't answer the question and said, "Is everything in the academy over?" "Yes." The sun shone a few steps in front of the cafeteria. Sugu sniffed the aroma of food coming from the cafeteria and said, "Now it's lunchtime. Where do you think Akage should be?" Even though he has grown up and looks much younger, his personality has not changed much at all. Except when he is alone, he becomes a vixen. When facing outsiders, Akage still looks dignified. When it comes to food, a foodie is still a foodie. Zeppelin shrugged, thinking the same thing. However, when she walked into the cafeteria, Akage didn't see her, but she saw many strangers. A tall woman with white hair in a ponytail was teasing a shorter, fleshy girl with wheat-colored skin. Xiaozai was talking to a little lowly with long silver white hair and bright red tips. There was also a strong and powerful woman with long blonde hair preaching there, "Eating, drinking, whoring, and smoking are all losses, only gambling has a return." Zeppelin walked around and saw many strangers, but he did not see Akage. When he walked to the door again, he saw Sugu still chatting with York City. "I didn't see Akage. It's right there." After Sugu finished speaking, he thought that Akage's appearance had changed drastically. It just so happened that today she wasn't wearing her usual kimono, yukata, or maiko uniform. She was wearing an ordinary skirt. It was not surprising that Zeppelin couldn't recognize her. Sugu brought Chibolin to Akage, who was immersed in eating. When Chibolin saw Akage's appearance, he was amazed and surprised, just like everyone in the governor's mansion. "What happened to you?" Sugugan was about to say something, but York City was already talking excitedly next to him, telling those exaggerated stories as if he was actually there. What Sugu said to York City was exaggerated and was revealed by York City. Sooner than later, a deep-sea carrier-based aircraft swooped down from the sky. It was inevitable to avoid. Akage looked around and saw hundreds of deep-sea carrier-based aircraft in the sky. The deep-sea carrier aircraft were so terrifying. Fighters collide, and the brave one wins when they meet on a narrow road. What kind of dark, powerful, violent, and evil-doing deep-sea ship girl is only one step away from becoming the deep-sea flagship? Those are the 3 insidious and cunning deep-sea York City-class sisters. She did not hesitate to mention the 3 York City-class sisters. She believed that deep-sea ship girls and ship girls were completely different, and there was nothing to be taboo about. Then there is the heroic, brave, and just Akagi holding a bow and having a fierce battle. Finally, he took a bow and shot an arrow, and the arrows pierced the sky, and the night turned into day, and finally the deep-sea ship girl was eliminated. Congratulations, Coca-Cola, no matter how exaggerated it is. York City talked a lot, and Zeppelin finally couldn't stand it anymore. Although the story was very nice, she wanted to know the whole story. In the end, Sugu recounted it again. Zeppelin looked at the much younger Akagi and said, "Akagi, let me take a look at your ship uniform." Everyone asked to see the ship's uniform, and everyone asked for it when they met. To be honest, Akagi was a little annoyed. Usually Akagi doesn't mind, but now, it's dinner time and no one can be disturbed. Akagi held the chopsticks, tapped the head of the chopsticks on the table, and said, "Zeppelin, wait and see, then come back and eat." Zeppelin knew Akagi's character, so she went to get food. When she came back, she sat next to her and asked, "Have the parameters of the ship's equipment been confirmed?" After being back for such a long time, I naturally had to figure out all the data, just like Princeton, even my amazing body measurements were carefully measured. Sugu said, "It has basically been tested and is stronger than before. All the data is available in the office. If you want to see it, I will bring it to you later." Saratoga had finished eating, and she walked to Sugu's side. York City saw this and quickly moved his seat, letting Saratoga sit next to Sugu. Saratoga said, "You still can't beat me." Even though she knew that Saratoga was very strong and was the strongest in the garrison, Zeppelin still felt bad. She still looked forward to Akagi. Zeppelin sighed and said, "Yes, you are strong, you are the strongest." Saratoga laughed heartily, hugged Sugu's arm, and said, "Yes, I am very strong, I am the strongest, the garrison can't do it without me, the opening air control, the opening cleansing, 2 rounds of shelling, and then praise me more." The familiar speaking style was largely influenced by Sugu, which reminded Chi Bolin of his new friend, Xianghe Ruhi. Zeppelin said, "Speaking of which, I met a pair of sisters, Xianghe Ruhi, in the academy. They are called Moonbell and Glazed Coral." After Zeppelin finished speaking, Sugu felt a little familiar. He had used these 2 names before, and he felt nostalgic for his blood elf priest. Saratoga didn't know why, and said, "Shoukakuziwahi is Shokakuziwahi, what are they doing?" "They are very strong, at least not worse than Akagi. I practiced with them and lost in 1 round." Saratoga said, "What do you want to say? Well, you have been taught so badly by others. Let's lend you the hero machine and let you get back on your feet. Otherwise, we will help you teach them a lesson." This sentence moved Zeppelin slightly. The garrison is like this. It can be messy internally, but it can always be consistent externally. Even though the Prince of Wales and Bismarck had a fierce quarrel, they would still point their guns unanimously when facing outsiders. The sisters in the garrison were not to be insulted. Zeppelin said, "If I lose, I lose. Use the hero machine to win without force." If equipped with a hero machine, even a Zeppelin can defeat many people. However, on the surface Zeppelin is aggressive, arrogant, and proud, and likes to wear a hip-covering skirt and hold a pointer. Once you are defeated, just like the big picture in the game, you will become a small victim at that time, like a little secretary or a little nanny, calling Akagi-senpai all the time. How are their carrier-based aircraft? It's similar to Akagi's previous carrier-based aircraft, the BTD-1 destroyer and the Seafang. Anyway, I practiced with them, first, and then. Akagi's set is the most standard aircraft carrier configuration, with bombers and powerful fighters that are easy to obtain. Sugu remembered that in the tutelage, the aircraft carrier basically had the same manpower, Dumpling Essex, Shokakuzi Wikaku, Kaga, Teho. Well, it seemed that only the Royal Ark did not have one, and there was no training at all. Here, it is quite difficult to obtain carrier-based aircraft, and it is not easy to get such a set. Sugu only knows that the Enterprise has a set of BTD-1 destroyers, but it still does not have the Seafang. Chibolin kept talking about the powerful Xianghe and Ruhi sisters, which made Sugu have some conditioned reflexes and suddenly felt doubtful in his heart. He asked, whose ship girl is so powerful? Doubts are just doubts, after all, the world is so big. It's not like Sugu has never seen a garrison with sisters Rodney and Nelson, or Kang Long and Phi Long. It's not strange to have sisters Xianghe and Ruhi. There are differences between the world and the game. For example, the gold-skinned dog food hood in the game is rare here, and Shokakuzi Wikaku may not be rarer than Rodney Nelson. Although there are some ship girls that are quite rare everywhere, such as submarines. Zeppelin said, they are just wandering ship girls, and now they want to pass the admiral's rank. By the way, they came to the academy and said they wanted to find you, Akage. If they challenge you, I think it will be difficult for you. Win. Hearing this, Akage put down her chopsticks. She frowned and was silent for a long time. She said, looking for me? Tell me what they look like. Long-haired Xianghe, short-haired Ruhi, tall and beautiful, how do you want me to describe? It's hard to describe her appearance, the most I can tell is that she has long hair or short hair. Unless there are characteristics, such as a crooked face, buck teeth, or scarred face. However, the ship girls are all beautiful girls, and each ship girl looks different. It is still difficult to describe them. Is their elder sister very gentle, like a married woman, especially a road idiot? The younger sister has a more cheerful personality, and likes rain clouds. They must be looking forward to a battle like me, and then. Akage said a lot, and after comparing it with Zeppelin, I felt that it was roughly right. Have you told them about the town hall? Have you mentioned the admiral's name to them? Zeppelin disapproved and said, why mention it? Is that guy a celebrity? Don't you think it's strange? Two people meet, and then it's like in the novel, after I am Sir So-and-so, I am the hero of so-and-so disciple. When two strangers meet, even if they feel somewhat familiar, they would not introduce themselves to each other. My father is so-and-so, and then my father is so-and-so, in fact, I am going to mention it, it feels quite familiar, but they are not familiar with each other. The governor's office and the fishing boat were very resistant, so we didn't mention it. Akage looked at Zeppelin and thought, everyone has different personalities. If York City was in that position, she would talk about how strong our garrison is and how many ship girls there are in our garrison. Zeppelin is different from York City, who is carefree. She can take care of most things in the academy. In fact, she has an all-round personality. Even though she always said, if you don't obey, then I will whip you with a pointer. After all, even if the other party really did something wrong, she would not embarrass people in public. A well-rounded person who is used to thinking about others, even if he notices something is wrong, he will not just point out the problem casually, but will wait until everything has been considered clearly before making a decision. Besides, the situation I knew was different. For Zeppelin, he just met two powerful ship girls. For Akage, since it was Shoukeku and Wikaku who was very strong at the same time, it was highly likely that he would come to the academy to find him. After Chibolin finished speaking, Sugu looked at Akage, who nodded towards him. Sugu said, I want to meet them. There will be a chance for you to meet. If you don't tell me, I will also find an opportunity to bring them to the town hall. Saying this, Zeppelin looked at Sugu and Saratoga, who was close to Sugu. Although the difference in strength between everyone is unknown, it does not prevent Zeppelin from deciding to give everyone a sense of crisis. Otherwise, I will always be the biggest in the world. She is really worried about education. Zeppelin said, they are very strong, really very strong, so, there are people who are better than others. I have asked, and it didn't take long for them to wake up. Through continuous exercises and attacks, they have such strength. The world is small, but at the same time it is very big, and there are still many powerful people. Since Shokakuzi Wikaku can appear, more people can also appear. Everyone in our garrison is very strong. A garrison can defeat the deep sea flagship, but we can't be proud. What do you say? It comes from a famous person in the old world, don't brag even if you are proud. Complacency will lead to overturning. Looking at the past and present in many things, success comes from humility and failure from extravagance. You do have many powerful ship girls, but the world is so big, and there are still many powerful ship girls, and they do not belong to you. Only by guarding against arrogance and impetuosity can the garrison become powerful. Day. Zeppelin was chatting, but in the end he found that everyone was looking at him with a strange look. She asked with some confusion, "What do you think of me like this? Am I right?" Chibolin looked at Sugu again, patted the table lightly, and said, "What are you looking at? Are all powerful and rare ship girls your ship girls?" Narcissist. Akage coughed and said, Chibolin, Xianghiruhi, we probably really know each other. Confuse. Stunned. After Chibolin heard this, she blinked at Sugu, a little confused. Different from the arrogant look in the past, Zeppelin now looks a bit like an innocent girl. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 456. In the cafeteria, even if he can't help in the kitchen, London is still keen to discuss cooking with others. Ever since Sugu saw the weird colored looking up at the starry sky, he already knew how much fighting power London really had, and counterattacks were completely insignificant in front of her. Richelieu grabbed hold of Utopia, who was running over, and the latter almost hit Helena. They chatted and joked. The news about Xianghe and Ziwahi had not yet spread, so Sugu only recruited Lexington to his side. After listening to Akage's words, Zeppelin looked confused. How come I met two people casually, the ship girls of the guarding mansion? It was so strange. This idea is of course one-sided. As an academy instructor, she still knows many ship girls. It was just because of Xianghe Ziwahi's great strength, and because of his speaking, matching, and appetite that I was particularly impressed. This can probably be regarded as the pregnant woman effect. With one's own attention, accidental factors make people feel that it is a common phenomenon. Why are they all your ship girls? How many ship girls did you have in your previous garrison? After thinking about it, Sugu briefly told Chibolin how many people there used to be in the garrison. It's been so long, and now it's time to say it seriously. I don't know how much impact the story had on Zeppelin. Likewise for Zeppelin, we still don't know how many holes this story has. Anyway, now that I have said it, even an academy instructor felt a little dizzy after hearing it. Reality cannot be like a game. This should be regarded as a super complete version with enhanced power. Just like Hindenburg, Missouri, Duke of York and other ship girls, Sugu has never heard of them in previous games, but here they are. There are more ship girls here. Sugu didn't have a full picture book in the previous games, Yangruazea he didn't have it, Suffolk didn't have it, and many of the ship girls didn't actually have it. Although it still scared Zeppelin, it gave her some breathing space. Take a breath. At noon, after dinner, Sugu introduced Washington, South Dakota, and others to Zeppelin. This is Washington, this is South Dakota, this is California, and then, this is Zeppelin. In the end it was Zeppelin, who was an instructor at the academy without any moisture, and didn't reach out to touch North Carolina's head and say it was a destroyer. After all, North Carolina is not as good as Kotaku, that kind of unique battleship. Over the years, the North Carolina has appeared several times in the world. After the introduction, Sugu said, "Let's go see Xiangheruhi later. It's better if I go find them and come back." "I'll go, otherwise I'll look too famous." Saratoga poured cold water on him and said, "It's not necessarily Shaukekuzi Wikaku. It should be no problem." Sugu couldn't guarantee 100% that those two sisters were his ship girl Xiangheruhi, but the possibility was already 9 out of 10. After all, the carrier-based aircraft is almost the same, and they want to find Akagya. Although I don't know why they are so resistant to the tutelage, I guess it's like their elder brother, who gets annoyed whenever he hears the word blind date. The two are probably similar. However, no matter what, as long as there is some possibility, you should go and see it, and the possibility is so high. In the past, it was not that I had not looked for some wandering ship girls, but in the end I found that they had nothing to do with me. It is not that easy to have everything go smoothly. Chuangzhou is not difficult to run, and it is not far from the garrison. We have even run to Washington and the Prince of Wales. Chuangzhou is a piece of cake. I haven't been to Sichuanjiu for a long time after being back for so many days. When the time comes to meet, if so, of course everyone will be happy. If it turns out not to be the case, it doesn't matter. It's time for the garrison to make a big purchase. Depart at noon and arrive at Chuangzhou in the afternoon. Although I haven't been to Sichuanjiu for a long time, I am still familiar with it. After taking the tram and walking a short distance, Chi Berlin led everyone to find the address of Xiangheruhi, but the two people were not there. Probably out. Zoos, amusement parks, shopping malls, there are many places in Sichuanzhou. Where can I find them? For those who are new to Sichuangzhou, they must take a good stroll. It is strange to be bored in a hotel. It is normal not to find two people. It is not an accident. Saratoga went out with Sugu and stood on the side of the street. She looked at the sky and said, "Otherwise, let's fly carrier-based aircraft. Carrier-based aircraft are our eyes. As long as they are active outdoors, we can detect them. The carrier aircraft is the eyes of the ship girl. Sugu knows this very well, so some things can be done indoors, but never outdoors. However, it is still somewhat difficult to use a carrier-based aircraft to find two people in such a large city. In the end, everyone decided to just wait for them. No matter what, they will definitely come back in the afternoon or evening." With this in mind, everyone sat in a small shop on the side of the street, ordered something at random, and chatted while waiting. There was a canopy above his head, and a small round table and a fence beside him. Sugu sat on the wicker chair and said, "Xiangheruhi can be regarded as my wife and sister-in-law." Saratoga said, "They don't have rings, could it be that my brother-in-law wants to give them rings?" Neither saying that he would give it nor saying that he would not give it, Sugu said, "I'm just talking about character. Xianghe's character is also similar to Lexington's character, gentle and virtuous, with the attributes of a wife, nicknamed MRS. It's not that she really after getting married, you become a wife. For example, if you have a ring, you will feel like a girl. No one will say that your wife is a young woman. Xianghe is the attribute of a wife. Whether you are married or not, you will feel like a young woman. MRS. Saratoga smiled and said, "They are fake wives and sisters-in-law." Speaking of which, Sugu prefers Ruhi among the two sisters. After all, he is the one with short hair, so he is the wife and sister-in-law. Think about it this way, wife and sister-in-law, it feels really good, they have all the attributes. Stop talking, it's so boring, let's go shopping. This was Bazai's voice. She also came out this time, wanting to take this opportunity to buy some books. She had been holding it in for too long, so she promised Sugu that she would do whatever she wanted as long as she bought me a few books. Sugu pointed at Chi Bolin, and what he meant was, that is your sister's minion. As long as she is around, you can forget about such things. Beizai was a little depressed. She lay on the table. When everyone was talking about Ruhi, she said out of nowhere, green-haired crane. The old world aircraft carrier Ziwikaku had a camouflage green livery, hence Ziwikaku's nickname. After saying this, Beizai became happy. Sugu was familiar with her and guessed that she might have thought of interesting things and plots from Lu Maohi's words. While waiting, Saratoga bought some cones to eat. After eating, I felt a bit unsatisfied, so I went to buy takoyaki. Sugu also went there and bought grilled chicken wings and grilled eggplant. After returning, Saratoga said while eating, "We will let Zeppelin meet first and then say, I brought my admiral here. Xianghe and Ruhi will definitely be angry. Brother-in-law, if you show up again," said, "I am her admiral." That scene should be very exciting. Otherwise, if you are wearing big sunglasses and a big hat, when you see them, go over and say to them, "Beauty, let's go and have fun together." They will definitely be angry if you take off your hat and sunglasses again. Sugu was not that bored. He said, "Come out without a hat or sunglasses. Then go buy it." Beizai was still smiling to himself, obviously completely trapped in a delusion. She looked so cute that Sugu couldn't help but reach out and pinch her face. She obviously looks like a mature beauty, but her personality is like that of an ignorant child. She doesn't have a stable personality after transformation like in the game. Beizai is so cute. Beizai is so cute. Beizai said, "Admiral, you are very annoying." Chi Bolin seemed to be thinking about the problem and remained silent. Sugu looked at her blankly and said, "Chi Bolin, Ruhi is the new admiral now. But the ship girl cannot truly serve as an admiral because she cannot build a ship, mom. Are you starting to think about what to do and let Xianghe pretend to be Ziwikaku's ship girl? Apart from the difference between their long and short hair, they should still be very similar. To become an admiral, no one is stupid and won't be able to see his sister. If you don't come out, you won't be able to tell the difference between men's and women's clothing." Sugu remembered that the first lesson of becoming an admiral was construction. After all, as an admiral, construction is of course the most important thing. I remember there were many senior students watching the construction. After the destroyer was built, some unexplained Lolicon club immediately came up to recruit people. After the construction of Kaohsiung and so on, a certain club immediately came up to shake hands and called comrade. Zeppelin said, "Ruhi said that he still has many companions, and it will be nice to find one of them when the time comes." Sugu remembered that he had many Japanese ship girls, but now there were basically none in the guardhouse. Did she say who it was? Did not say. Sugu turned around and said, "Jia, who do you think it could be?" "I don't know, I'm not interested or interesting." "Just guess." "Is there a reward for guessing correctly?" Sugu knew very well what reward Saratoga wanted. He said, "Whether it's right or wrong, there is a reward for everything." Zeppelin watched from the side and thought to himself, what a perverted brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and they even brought two sisters-in-law with them. The last time I saw Xianghe and Ruhi was in the afternoon, and the sun was still very bright. Zeppelin said, "They are coming, take a look, right." Saratoga raised her head, looked at it, and then said, "No need to look at it, that's all." As long as he knew that they were Xianghe and Ziwihi, Sugu would be able to tell who they were. The long-haired Xianghe and the short-haired Ruhi were so easy to recognize. The two of them walked over from the front. Xianghe was holding a small bag of apples or oranges, smiling. Ziwihi looked happy, chattering beside her. Sugu stood up from his seat first, but he didn't know what to shout or say. Chi Bolin also stood up next to her, and she shouted, "Xianghe, Ruhi." She shouted, feeling unhappy for a while, thinking that another pair of beautiful sisters were about to be ruined. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 457. The small round table is just right for 4 people, but it's a bit awkward for 6 people. Sugu looked at the sisters sitting opposite him and said, Xianghe. Xianghe said, yes, Admiral. Sugu turned around and said, Ruhi. With short hair and wearing a blue skirt, Ruhi lowered his head and responded briefly, seemingly unwilling to speak. Sorry, I just came back. Ruhi said, who can control you? Would you like some snacks or juice? Don't eat. With short hair and pursed lips, Ziwihi looked quite angry. Ziwikaku is angry, Xiaokeku seems fine. She sat opposite Sugu and looked at her sister with a helpless and doting smile. She originally took the bag, put it on the table, and took out the fruit. It turned out to be citrus. Slender fingers peeled the citrus, peeling off the peel to reveal the pulp inside. Admiral, don't mind, Ziwihi still misses you very much. As Xianghe said, his fingers pulled off the white tangerine veins on the tangerine pulp little by little, and his movements were very careful. Sugu looked at it and thought, you don't need to be so particular about eating tangerines, you just need to peel off the tangerine peel. It would be too delicate and troublesome to tear off the orange veins bit by bit. Ruhi said, nothing. Sugu said, I don't mind. Ruhi retorted, what don't you mind? You should apologize sincerely. Sugu lowered his head and said, I apologize, I'm sorry. Xianghe originally lowered his head, but she raised her head after pulling off the tangerine strips on the tangerine. She reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, smiled, and parted the tangerine in 2. Half was given to Ruhi and half was given to Sugu. Sugu took it and didn't want to say something like, it makes no sense at all. Those tangerines are rich in vitamin P, which is a nutrient the other party is so considerate, and it would be a shame to say such words yourself. Admiral, there's no point in apologizing to Ziwihi. You should be like this, by the way, Zeppelin, Tirpitz, Saratoga, eat oranges. As he said this, Xianghe seemed to think that he didn't greet everyone, so he showed a too bad expression. She has the same personality as a married woman, but compared to Lexington, who is shrewd and sinister in a married woman, she is weak and confused in a married woman. Sugu looked at Ruhi, who was looking at the table, his fingers constantly playing with his bangs, either fiddling with them or pulling them lightly. To be honest, Ziwihi should have given the impression of being calm in the original game illustrations, but now it seems that is obviously not the case. Now that Sugu is an old and powerful person, with Ruhi's personality, he thought about it in his mind and said, I heard that you passed the written test and interview of the Admiral examination. Yes. It's really amazing. A very simple question. That's much better than me. It's hard for me to do. Who said you're bad at it? You're not good at it? Ruhi said, and Sugu clearly saw her eyes gradually curve into crescent shapes, showing a happy look. Sugu had already heard about Ruhi's exam situation from Chi Bolin, but that didn't stop him from praising Ruhi. Sugu first said that he had spent a lot of effort to become an admiral. He couldn't sleep the day before the exam because he was so worried. Besides, I almost failed the interview. I was so nervous when answering that I almost broke the pen I was given during the interview. In fact, Sugu's results are not that top-notch, but compared to Ruhi who just crossed the line, they are still pretty good. There was absolutely no need to be shy during the interview, although it was actually a mess because of Akage being the interviewer. Sugu kept talking, praising how powerful Ruhi was, and in the end, a smile finally appeared on Ruhi's lips. Saratoga has been listening by the side. It is rare that she does not stick to Sugu's side and make gestures of declaring sovereignty. She is still very sensible. Although they kept saying that the fake wife and sister-in-law were still good at leaving space for Sugu. She just looked at the street and thought to herself, who was mocking someone for being a lucky player at first, and now actually praising someone for being awesome? There must be a certain level of shamelessness. Chibolin also remained silent. He only answered a few words when Xianghe spoke to her in a low voice. Her character is well-rounded and she knows very well that it is not good for her to interrupt when the admiral and the ship's wife are reunited after a long separation. As for Bazai, she was lying on the table, not caring about anyone and thinking about her own affairs. After such a compliment, Sugu continued, our garrison encountered the deep-sea flagship before, but no one was in the garrison. The battle was very difficult. Zeppelin watched the whole battle and thought, that battle was obviously a crushing one. After thinking about it, she naturally wouldn't tell what happened. Shokaku and Ziwikaku probably haven't heard of the rumors. Maybe they are really new admirals in the academy and will know about it soon, but not yet. Sugu told what happened, and it was over. Of course, everyone was happy with the ending, but the two people, Xianghe and Ruhi, were still worried. Ziwihi held his chin from beginning to end. Xianghe said, Admiral, Ruhi still misses you, but she doesn't say it. Sister Xianghe, please stop talking nonsense. This is what happened to the town hall, so Ziwihi please forgive the admiral. Beizai lay on the table with a strange expression, forgive he, forgive he. Sugu naturally didn't know what Beizai was thinking, so he said, there won't be a next time. In the past, he would have liked to say words like maybe, probably, and no surprises, because his personality just didn't like to talk in full. However, he already knows that giving confidence to the ship girl is a very important thing. Sugu's expression was sincere, and Ruhi's expression finally relaxed. Xianghe said, look, Ruhi is soft and not hard. Xianghe's words made Ruhi a little angry, and she immediately started to tell Xianghe's embarrassing things. You can get lost even if you are at your doorstep. One time, she actually got lost like a little girl outside and even found her way to the police station. He said he couldn't find his way home. The police just got off work and asked, where is your home? Then he said, where is it? It's obviously just across the street from the police station. Thinking it was just for fun, the police ignored her at all. We finally found her and saw her taking 2 steps forward and then backing up a few steps. We were worried that she was taking the wrong step, and there was nothing we could do about her because she was so crazy about the road. After talking about Luchi, Ziwihi said that Xianghe was very unlucky and was basically the victim. Xianghe smiled and said, if it's because of Ziwihi's injury, it doesn't matter how many times. Ruhi finally stopped nagging and said, Sister Xianghe, Admiral, it's useless even if you look jealous, this is my sister Xianghe. After talking for a while, everyone left the shop soon. It was already afternoon and they had to rush back. A few days ago we went back to the old townhouse. From a distance, we saw it had turned into ruins. In the end, we didn't go in. Speaking of which, I am already an admiral. Remember that the new admiral can build it? Zeppelin, can I let the admiral build it for me? Zeppelin said, of course not. You can't shoulder your responsibilities as an admiral like this. Of course you can't enjoy your rights in vain. No matter how close they were, Zeppelin still kept things businesslike. It's okay to put a little water in the rules, it's okay to go through the back door for small things, and it doesn't matter if you squeeze the wool a little. However, although Zeppelin still has great power in the academy, he will never do anything that harms the interests of the academy. This is a matter of principle. Ruhi said, if it doesn't work, it won't work. I wasted so much time taking the exam. Zeppelin thought to himself, I still waste so much time teaching you. Ziwihi added, The academy's instructor Akagi is probably Akagi. Sugu nodded and said, yes, it's Akagi, so he came back with us. Well, you definitely can't recognize Akagi now. How is it possible? I am very familiar with the seniors from the first air battle. Akagi-senpai is here, and Kaga-senpai is also there, right? Sugu shook his head and said, Kaga is not here. He went out and hasn't come back yet. The details are like this. London is back, but Lin Xian is not back, and Kaga, who is supposed to be the first to come back, is not back either. I don't understand. Depart from Chuangzhou and return to the garrison in the evening. At this point, in winter, it would have been dark long ago, but there is still sunshine. Sugu took Xianghe and Ziwehe to see Lexington first, and then went to see Akagi. Akagi's appearance was still surprising. Soon after, he left Akagi's side, and Ziwehe said, I didn't expect that Akagi-senpai in the first air battle would actually become so young and become a girl. Although he has become stronger, he looks like that. How can he scream out loud? Well, York City can call her sister Lexington, and she can call her instructor Zeppelin, but there is no way to call Saratoga senior, sister, or instructor, all because Saratoga is too young. Akagi has also become younger, which is difficult to deal with. Fortunately, compared to Saratoga's completely girly character, Akagi is dignified, generous, and has power. Sugu took the two of them for a walk around the governor's mansion. On the way, he saw San Juan, Prince Eugen, and many other people preparing dinner. Xianghe said that he wanted to help in the kitchen. In the past, he had to take care of Ziwehe, but he was still very good at cooking. The cafeteria suffered a lot due to the relationship in London during this period. Finally, the chef came, which made people feel like they were crying. Xianghe is good at Japanese cuisine. Japanese cuisine is eye-opening, after all, no one has cooked it before. Sugu doesn't know how to eat, and Akagi only knows how to eat. As for Lan Hao, it's better not to embarrass others. Sugu thought of Lan and how she liked to open her mouth wide when she encountered difficulties. Sometimes she spread her fingers and put them in front of her mouth, and sometimes she just put them in her mouth. If you can't do your homework, that's it. When you ask questions, you can't answer, that's it. That unusually exaggerated expression often makes Helena, as a teacher, feel a little embarrassed. Xianghe insisted on helping, but there was no other way, so Sugu and Ruhi continued to walk inside the guard mansion. It's so hot here, it's already October. Sugu said, it doesn't rain much, it will be cooler when the wind blows. I have a way to cool you down, just pour water on your head. Forget it. Do we only have this dormitory building? In addition to this dormitory building, of course, there is no one living in that dormitory building, and there is that one. Anyway, even if everyone comes back, everyone can live in a room. Sugu looked around. The townhouse seemed a bit small compared to other people's townhouses, but it was completely enough for people to live there. Sugu said, I heard from Chi Bolan that you know a lot of people, so you should be with a lot of people. Yes, there are a lot of people there, so my sister and I can go out with peace of mind. It doesn't matter if we go back later. By the way, they are waiting for the Admiral, and they look forward to it every day. Firefly accidentally kicked the ball to Ziwehe, and Ziwehe saw that she kicked the ball back. Seeing Ziwikaku, Firefly, and several destroyers, they shouted, Sister Ziwikaku. Ruhi waved his hands towards them, and then continued, they shouted Admiral, where have you been, under the cherry blossom tree. They sat on the bluestone steps and shouted Admiral, don't leave any more. They shouted at the roadside guardrail, we can't find you, come back quickly. They listened to the beeping siren of the train, and their eyes were very anxious. Sugu said, no, it's not that exaggerated. Even if she misses her, she won't do such a thing unless she is stunned, which the ship girl obviously won't do. Ruhi blinked and said, Li Ubju and the others used to have a little orange cat. It was a little male cat. One day, he suddenly couldn't find it. I heard that he was seduced by the little female cat and ran away. He ran away and never came back. Then we raised a Shiba Inu, which was a little Shiba Inu adopted from someone else's home. This little Shiba Inu was originally called Ahuang, but later we named him Admiral, well, because of fear it was just like the little orange cat, so they asked the veterinarian to have the little Shiba Inu castrated. Sugu's expression was a little embarrassed. Forget it, the Shiba Inu was still a castrated Shiba Inu, and it was named like this. Retaliate maliciously. It's just malicious revenge. Ziwi, he said, and Sugu watched her stretch out her hand to swing a knife, and he shrugged his shoulders. You have to be willing to scare me. Here in the governor's mansion, it gets dark late, but there is still sunshine. The setting sun shone on Ruhi's body, and the sea breeze blew her short hair up and swayed slightly. Ruhi laughed, smiling like this, with tears flashing in his eyes. Sugu looked at Ruhi and said nothing. He was silent for a long time. Wanting to liven up the atmosphere, he said, Ruhi, I heard you like green. Ruhi patted the hem of his skirt and said, yes, green, very handsome painting. Everyone calls green the color of forgiveness. Do you know the color of forgiveness? Ruhi was a little puzzled, and she said, excuse me, what do you mean? Your smile is so weird, if you smile again, I'll kick you. Phew, don't run away if you can. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 458. In the evening, Ruhi chased Sugu, shouting and killing him, all the way to the dock. She didn't stop until the dinner bell rang in the governor's mansion. The two people walked back from the pier, Ruhi walking in front and Sugu walking behind. Sugu looked at Ruhi's back. Ruhi was still very beautiful in a cyan or green dress. She was already tall, and she strode in the wind in a dress. The wind blows the hem of her skirt, and her short hair gives her a straightforward and unrestrained look. However, her personality is not chic at all. It is somewhat similar to Saratoga, with a bit more arrogance. Ruhi walked in front. She turned around, walked backwards, and said, Admiral, to be honest, your smile just now was evil. Have it? What does forgiveness mean? You are too pure, I'd better not agree with you. So forgiveness is a very impure word. I have no idea. Although he said he was forgiving, in fact, Ziwi had nothing to forgive or not to forgive. When it comes to forgiveness, Lexington is the one who forgives the most. Although she always said she didn't mind and said clearly, it doesn't matter, as long as I am the eldest wife. No matter how many people you marry, Admiral, you will still have to look at my eyes. However, Sugu didn't believe this. When we returned to the canteen from the pier, it was getting dark, and the lights in the canteen had already been turned on. Many people were already sitting at the dining table, waiting for Sugu to come over. Thanks to Xianghe's help, this dinner has many more dishes, such as fried shrimp, tempura, sushi, etc. Xianghe's craftsmanship is obviously very good, and the food is both beautiful and delicious. Even the destroyer, who doesn't like eating very much, still frequently stretches out his chopsticks. After dinner, there wasn't much going on at night. There is a projector in the Tutlari residence, and you can watch movies if you open the curtain. It's just that this night, Xianghe and Ruhi had to stay in the Tutlari mansion and were busy tidying up the room, so they couldn't rest at all. Xianghe refused the request to fight back for help, but he did not refuse Sugu. Cleaning, dusting desks and counters, Ziwikaku in a headscarf looks like a housemaid. The brackets on the wall have been put up, but the curtains need to be hung up again. Ruhi held the herringbone ladder, and Sugu sat on the herringbone ladder, hanging the curtain hooks on the bracket while talking. Lianghe County, I have never heard of this place. It's not a big city. It has only a small port. Admiral has never heard of it? It's normal. The climate is good, with 4 distinct seasons. There are beautiful cherry blossoms in spring. Apart from the frequent earthquakes, it's a very suitable place to settle. Admiral, if you go there, you can also go to the hot springs. A hot spring bath in this kind of weather. If you go into the mountains, it's very cool there. Even in summer, you have to cover yourself with a quilt to sleep at night. When are we going there? The Admiral decides. Then let's go to Chuangziu tomorrow to see when the ship will sail. Sugu handed over the task of purchasing the ship ticket to Leipzig, whom he trusted most, and Leipzig lived up to expectations. Lianghe County is neither far nor close to the garrison, and it takes several days to get there by boat. It's just that boats don't go to Sichuanjiu every day, so you have to wait for a few days. Fortunately, their lives are actually stable and they are not anxious for a few days. In fact, you can go by land, but if you want to take a boat, you have to transfer. To some extent, it is not as good as taking a boat, which is very troublesome. The time to board the ship was 2 days before the official classes at the college, which made people feel a bit of a pity. It would have been better if it had been a few days later. When school started, it was interesting to watch the newcomers build, and to be honest, Sugu still wanted to go and see it. Go see those Europeans, go see those Africans, and hear what the wailing sounds like. He had already thought about it. He would sit next to him with his little house in his arms that day, and then wait for someone to ask, "What kind of destroyer is this?" I have considered several answers, but now I have no chance. But compared to finding everyone, this is a small thing after all. During the few days waiting for the cruise ship to sail, Xianghe and Ziwehi stayed in the Tutelari mansion. Ziwehi is willing to try various entertainments in the Tutelari mansion, such as sailing, skateboarding, and motorcycles. It took only a few days to buy a motorcycle with dark blue paint. It was specially prepared for California. Although California said he didn't want it, Sugu helped buy it back. Even though the ship girls were considerate, Sugu couldn't climb up the pole and ignore their true feelings. Of course Sugu knew how to drive a motorcycle, and he took Ruhi for a ride in the mountains behind the governor's mansion. Go faster. No, it's already 50 yards. I'm afraid of an accident if I go any faster. Timid. Then let California take you to experience the feeling of rapid speed. Ziwehi had seen the speed of driving in California, and she said honestly, let's forget it. Wait until we find the sailboat. I'll drive you around on the yacht. It's safe. Sugu actually doesn't like motorcycles. He likes to play on the sea, where he can admire beauties in swimsuits and young girls dead in the water. From a normal perspective, it seems a bit excessive, but it doesn't matter if the other party is a ship girl. Sugu's favorite thing is to put his arms around U-47's neck and shout full power, and U-47 will laugh and swim out for a long distance. Although the submarine's speed is not very fast, compared to a ship girl, it is still very fast compared to ordinary people. However, U-47 often likes to play pranks and often dives underwater. Once there was probably a slight accident, and Su didn't check it and choked when he dived into the water. Back on the shore, Sugu said there was nothing wrong. Helena picked up the U-47 like a little rabbit and kept saying, "Remind you to pay attention to safety, and you are a ship girl, the Admiral is just an ordinary person." U-47 was sulking for 5 minutes until Sugu played the game of human cannon with her. Xianghe was a road fool, but Sugu didn't believe it at first. After seeing Xianghe walking out of the abandoned dormitory many times, he finally believed that he could actually get lost in the guardhouse. From Xianghe's performance, one could guess with a little care that she was in the wrong dormitory. Although from the appearance, several dormitory buildings do look similar. To be honest, Xianghe probably had no sense of direction at all since the buildings were located in different places. At noon, Sugu watched Xianghe look at the left building, then the right building, and finally stopped her when Xianghe wanted to walk towards the abandoned dormitory building. Sugu pointed out the dormitory building to Xianghe and asked curiously, "Xianghe, can you distinguish the southeast from the northwest? The place where the sun rises is the east, and then..." Xianghe hesitated for a long time. Judging from the hard way he pursed his lips, he wasn't trying to be cute. Sugu continued, "Can you tell the difference between your left and right hands? The one who holds the bowl is the left hand, the one who holds the chopsticks is the right hand. It takes so long to think about such a simple question. It seems you don't have a clear direction. It'll be fine if there's no problem in fighting." "Fight why?" question. "I don't know why, it's probably because carrier-based aircraft don't need to know which direction is which, and carrier-based aircraft have a wide field of view and can see all places clearly. In life, it's the road, there's nothing I can do about it." Seeing Xianghe's frown, Sugu wanted to say, "Don't worry, I will accompany you, then you will never get lost." Nay, he felt that it was a bit too much to gain favor like this. Sugu likes to play cards with Ruhi, of course as partners rather than opponents. Anyway, it felt like, Kobe and I scored 83 points together. Ziwihi's luck is super good. No matter who his opponent is, whether it's Lucky Nevada or Magician Princeton, he is just a piece of cake in front of Ziwihi. Stud. A royal flush. It's still a flush. Nevada yelled, "You guys can do something good." Sugu said, "Rabbit, if you give me $1,000, you have to be more ruthless, otherwise you won't win. But if you give me $1,000, I forgive you. Now, you, Nevada, cook in London chocolate eggplant and not entertain well." Nevada stood up, and Sugu gently tugged on Washington's palm. "You are all sisters in the guardhouse. If you have anything to say, talk to him." York City and Bumblebee murmured, and then said, "We are looking for the Enterprise to come over." Ziwihi said, "Shwefeng." Sugu hesitated for a moment and said, "Auspicious, my house is safe. If you can't find Swefeng, I'd better call my Lord Suk Bader, the king of explosive fishing, to come over. After all, there is no Enterprise in the garrison, Yukikaze is not here, and Lord Suk Bader is still missing, so let's talk about it after all." Nevada showed a pleading expression and said, "Admiral, no, it's really going to kill someone. Fortunately, London is not here. What if she heard what you said? It really doesn't work." Sugu said, "You are making it difficult for me." Nevada said angrily, "You didn't touch the cards once, and you were just babbling there." Sugu said, "Ruhi and I are a team." Saratoga kicked Sugu's calf. Even if Xianghe and Ruhi just come back, Sugu won't always be with them, he still has his own work. Xianghe and Ruhi are always together. Ruhi is happy to swim in a swimsuit. Even if Xianghe wears a swimsuit, he usually sits under a parasol on the beach. After Sugu finished doing his own thing, he went to the beach and saw Xianghe sitting there, and he sat next to him. "Xianghe, don't you go swimming?" "Not going." "Don't you like it?" "I like watching Ziwihi swim." Akagi also likes watching, not swimming. Sukuf likes swimming the most, and she has the most toys. Well, I didn't see Sukuf holding her inflatable shark today. Sugu and Xianghe were sitting on the beach. Ruhi, who was wearing a ruffled bikini and holding a skateboard, waved to Sugu. When Sugu walked over, she lightly splashed water on Sugu and said, "Admiral, come down and play." The clothes were a little wet, and Sugu said angrily, "You should say, 'Uncle, come and play.'" Ziwihi splashed the water harder and said, "Please wake up, you pervert and pervert." Sugu returned to Xianghe and complained, "I got wet by Ziwihi." Xianghe smiled and said, the admiral should marry Akagi-senpai. Yes. Ruhi, she actually likes you very much. Sugu was surprised, it was so direct. Sugu remembered that most of his powerful ships had a full favorable opinion. In addition to the powerful large ships, all the ships with exquisite vertical paintings also received a full favorable opinion. There are a lot of ship girls that I like very much, so I just rely on the game to gain my favor, otherwise I will die if I do not like them in real life. Calculating that it has been a year since I built York City, I still don't have a good impression of it after all this time. When York City asked itself for a carrier-based aircraft, all kinds of promises were made, such as I will help you pack your clothes, I will be your full-time maid for a week, I will clean the bed, I will help you hold on to your dreams. Well, that last promise is a bit of a mystery. York City had made many promises, but she had never said any requests such as I'll let you kiss me or I'll let you touch my thigh. After all, her goodwill was not good. It's easy to gain favor with a little girl, but it doesn't mean much. They have only half understandings about marriage, and they only focus on the concept of sleeping together, thinking that the ring is just recognition. Sigsby knows a little better. After all, she is a little vixen. Other than that, no one in the townhouse is a love brain. It's a bit shameless to say it. It's already like this. Is there anything Sugu can do? Having a good impression is called forced marriage in the game, although there is no such thing as forced marriage here. There are also some people who directly ask you for a ring like in South Dakota. Most people just give you a ring and go ahead. It doesn't matter if you don't give a ring. I don't know if it's a woman's nature or something, but many people like to be matchmakers. For example, the Prince of Wales said a few words in front of Sugu, Admiral should give counterattack a ring, especially counterattack said a few words in front of Sugu, Admiral, when are you going to give Fletcher a ring? You used to give her a ring, let's see it all, I'm very confused, Fletcher is still a destroyer. Well, Fletcher is already a girl. The Prince of Wales could hold her in his arms. Everyone was familiar with her and could say anything. Sugu remembered that he said, you are such a pimp Xiang, he is not that familiar yet and cannot master the speed well. Sugu just said, Ruhi is very cute and beautiful. In the evening, Ruhi pulled Sugu to a corner and said, Admiral, I think he likes Sister Xiang. You two sisters. That night, Sugu hugged Lexington, thinking of the two sisters, and said, now that there is a wife in the town hall, you can't do it unless you work hard, or I will abandon you. Hold on. Lexington pushed out the door and came back a short time later, carrying a pile of clothes. She put the clothes on the bed, including a wedding dress, a maid outfit, a Lolita outfit, and a nun outfit. Finally, she showed a playful smile and called Sugu brother-in-law. And then, nothing then, the most perfect wife in Lexington. Anyway, Sugu was a little sluggish the next day. Sometimes I think Bismarck is better, he is just a soft cat. Akagi is a vixen. Once Lexington gets aggressive, he becomes a devil. He is still far from a warrior. After living like this for a few days, it was finally time to board the ship. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 459. After leaving the governor's mansion, Sugu simply brought some changes of clothes. In addition to Xianghe and Ruhi, the people accompanying him also included Bazai. Yes, it's Bazai. In fact, at the beginning, I thought that Shokaku and Ziwikaku were aircraft carriers after all and were very powerful during the day, but they were immediately blinded in the night battle and had no way to display their combat effectiveness. For the sake of Sugu's safety, everyone in the guarding mansion insisted that he bring the ship girl with him who could also play a huge role in night battles. Anyway, Leipzig bought a ticket for the entire cabin. If not, it would be bad for a stranger to enter the four-person cabin. What happened is probably like this. Sugu originally wanted to take Xiao Zai with him, but if he took Xiaozai with him, Lolita's heart was agitated to go. South Dakota wanted to go, but Washington said from the side, "What will you do if the power goes out?" South Dakota glared at Washington, and the two started arguing. Bismarck said, "I'll go and fight at night. There's no problem at all." Saratoga said, "What if we encounter a submarine?" The powerful Lafayette said from the side, I, I, I am good at anti-aircraft, anti-submarine, and night combat." The Prince of Wales touched her head and said, "You are a destroyer, the armor is too thin, and there is no shelling at all." Lafayette muttered, "I am a destroyer, it would be nice to have lightning strikes." One by one they put forward their wishes, but were refuted one by one. Sugu said, "You guys, you need air defense and anti-submarine warfare, the bombardment needs to be powerful, and the tracking of the enemy must not be bad. No one can meet all the needs. It's almost the same all right." Helena coughed beside her and said, "Admiral, if you want me to accompany you, just say so and keep it secret." Able to bombard, anti-submarine, have good air defense, and have excellent tracking of enemies, Helena is a master at everything. Especially, she can also warm the bed, the perfect among perfections. However, in the end, she still failed to fight back, so she had to find her shortcomings. You can always pick one out, unless it's the Star Destroyer Lord Suk Bader. Everyone unanimously decided to draw lots, and the person who won the lot was the confused Bizai. "I do not want to go." After thinking about it, Bizai leaned into Sugu's ear again and whispered, "Is there a notebook there?" Sugu grinned and whispered, "I don't know, but if you go out, at least your sister can't control you." If it were still the old world, there might be many books where Lianghe County is located. However, there is no connection between the old world and the present. Today is neither Showa nor Heisei. Except that the land is still that land, the Yamato nation is gone. In short, we cannot look at the world through the eyes of the past. Besides, except for prosperous cities like Sichuanxiu, in other cities, people have less requirements for spiritual enjoyment. Sugu said this, and finally went to Bizai. She usually seems like a drag, but at least her fighting ability is guaranteed. Anyway, in mid-October, everyone came to Sichuanxiu to take a boat ride. Bizai was very excited to be freed from her sister's control. While Chuangziu was waiting for the passenger ship, she immediately bought many books at the nearby bookstall. At noon, everyone boarded the ship. On the passenger ship, Bizai pulled out her notebook, and she began to complain. There were only 2 Bismarck notebooks. Well, if you really want to say it, Bismarck may not have much popularity and audience. In addition, Bizai was still yelling and saying, "What? Those painters have never seen Bismarck at all. My sister just has her hair raised, not cat ears." In the past few days when Sugu took Washington and others back to the garrison, he spent several nights with Bismarck. From his professional point of view, these so-called Bismarck's books are just selling Bismarck's name as dog meat. Bizai said angrily, "This is not my sister at all. I'm not your sister in the first place. If it were your sister, it would be difficult for me. There is not only one Bismarck in the world, that is not his cat, it is just a fiction, otherwise Sugu would not have the leisure to talk nonsense with Bizai." Sugu and Bizai were discussing, Ruhi looked at the 2 people with contemptuous eyes, and Xianghe looked helpless. Sugu coughed and wanted to leave Bizai. Bizai insisted on getting close to him and wanted the 2 of them to discuss it together. Bizai has 2 states, one is completely ignoring people, and the other is excited. Regardless of Bizai, she can survive as long as she has a book. The passenger ship was sailing. It was still a bit boring on the passenger ship, because there was originally a killing spree in the garrison, so Ziwahi suggested playing cards. When it comes to playing cards, Sugu will definitely not play with Ruhi. That would be completely crushing him. Anyway, he must not go to Ruhi for anything that tests his luck. Although it is said that luck is a mysterious thing, Ziwahi is able to win frequently, which makes people feel a little helpless. Although boring, I still don't go to the casino on the passenger ship if I can. Although there are many gambling games in the governor's mansion, no money transactions are allowed for winning or losing. Usually, helping with laundry and housework are used as bargaining chips. Apart from these, punishments can also be given, such as drinking water or tasting London food. Anyway, it can't directly involve money, then the nature will change, Washington's request. He doesn't play cards, and Shokaku and Ziwahi don't read books. Life on the passenger ship is just talking in the cabin. If you ask me to tell you a story, I can't remember any of the stories you like to hear. I haven't read the tale of Genji carefully at all. I have learned about the dancing girl of Izu in previous texts, but I can only remember a little bit about it now. It was still a short story, so it's hard to say. Norwegian Wood, I have seen the same thing, but I have forgotten it after seeing it, and I can't remember many of the plots at all. After thinking about it, Sugu finally said, if we are a few days late, I can take you to see how the newcomers build. Construction is not interesting, but the construction is over and the unveiling is interesting. As long as the newcomers walk into the warehouse, they will be brought to the warehouse within half an hour. The destroyers come out. You can immediately see the cheering senior students outside, singing and dancing. Of course, if you haven't come out for more than a few hours, and you come out again, there will be no one outside, so you have to be careful. I'll tell you a story. The protagonist of the story is called Mu Cheng. The layout of the college's resource warehouse is different from other places. I was admitted to the college in 2024 and became an admiral. Mu Cheng is the only person in the college who has not been in the garrison after studying for 2 years. He is tall and handsome. At that time, he said to me, I will give you a test. What are the Fletcher class destroyers? I ignored him, thinking, I have Fletcher. It was a long time before I heard him. I heard that he no longer wants to be the admiral. It's not that easy to make up a story. Most of the time we just chat casually together. When we left together, Yan Xian didn't want to leave with us. Later, Xiao took Lei and Dian and forced her to leave. Now everyone no longer asks her to trust her, they all ask her to sound the horn. She has some oral habits that she can't get rid of, and occasionally she will say comrade. Sugu said, don't you want to follow Kirov? Then Kirov may be pitiful when he is alone. Ruhi held his chin and showed a sad expression. Kirov is not pitiful, Tashkent is. You have forgotten her. Sugu was silent. Although he was golden-skinned, compared to his fantasy, Tashkent seemed to have no sense of existence at all. Poor Tashkent. It was an ordinary passenger ship with an ordinary cabin. There were 2 bunk beds in the cabin. Ziwahi sat on the upper layer with his legs hanging down and swaying. He said, speaking of which, let's take the 6th drive back and we'll guard it. There are 2 admirals in the government. Sugu said, forget it, Xiaozai and his group can raise any pet to death. Besides, if you dare to bring that Shiba Inu back to the governor's mansion, we will eat dog meat as an extra meal at night. What a shame. Before Ruhi could speak, Sugu laughed first and said, the dog meat incense Buddha jumps over the wall. Dogs are so cute, why do they need pure water and stir-fried dog meat? We have raised them for so long, when can we eat dog meat? Ruhi said, what the hell are you? The passenger ship continued to sail north, and it rained that night. Sugu looked at the heavy rain outside from the window and said, Ruhi, don't you like the rain? You don't have any expression at all. I just like rain clouds, I don't like rain, I don't like heavy rain. Do you like Yonyu? Ziwahi didn't know why, and said, like it, take advantage of others. Bizai remained silent. Ruhi said, Admiral, why did you marry Bizai? Although his fighting ability is good, he is lazy and homely. Sugu said, Bizai is indeed very useless. He is also a night owl, a contestant in cultivating immortals, a fat house, and a useless house. He still drags his feet in doing things. Bizai will not be angry. Suguke, I said this in a joking tone. I thought that Bizai would remain silent and indulge in the book, but Bizai said quietly, I heard it all. Not caring whether you heard it or not, Sugu stretched out his hand to pinch her face and said, Bizai is so cute. Ruhi said, actually, I found out that the admiral prefers the small house to the north house. Finally, when he had the chance to take revenge, Bizai said from the side, oh, his idea is to raise Xiao Zai and make him his wife. Ruhi said, when Xiao Zai grows up, she will become you. You are already a wedding host, do you want another Bizai? Bizai came to his senses and said blankly, yes. I don't know if it's because October is getting colder, or if it's getting colder as we go north, or because of the heavy rain and cold air moving south. The day after the rainy night, everyone put on long autumn clothes. These days, whether we are chatting in the cabin or on the deck. Most of the time, Sugu was talking to Ruhi, and Xianghe was smiling quietly beside him. Unlike Shugu, Lexington, and Saratoga who were together, Saratoga always seemed much colder when his sister was there, and it was mostly Shugu and Lexington who talked. One time, Sugu walked on the deck alone and met a man who had spoken a few words in the passenger ship's mess hall. Where is your wife and your sister-in-law? Are you not with them? Sugu and Ruhi seemed to be in a relationship of husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, and Xianghe seems to be a sister-in-law. So looked around and didn't see Xianghe Ruhi. He whispered, no, both of them are my wives. It's most fun to attack others, and I like to see people's confused expressions the most. Soon after, returning to the cabin, Sugu looked at Xianghe Ruhi and felt that he was becoming more and more unwilling to let go of his ship girl and that he was becoming more and more possessive. Ruhi saw Sugu and said, Admiral, what's wrong with you? Your expression changes from one moment to the next. After spending a few days on the passenger ship, we quickly arrived at our destination. It's not Lianghe County, it's a big city called Crane City. After all, Lianghe County only has a small port and is a small county. Of course, large passenger ships will not dock there. When the passenger ship docked in the evening, everyone stayed in the hotel for the night. In the evening, Bizai insisted on dragging Sugu around, wanting to buy a book, but in the end he found many stores but none of them had any. Bizai lowered his head, disappointed. We stayed in Hesheng for one night and left by bus the next day. The road is difficult to walk, with ups and downs and ups and downs. But there are many beautiful scenery along the way, as well as large lavender fields. It didn't take long to arrive in Lianghe County by car in the morning, which is an ordinary-looking county. Because it was the old world that went through a great catastrophe and became the current world. For any country or city, there is no historical accumulation and no very distinctive ancient buildings. Lianghe County is not big. There are no ancient buildings here and almost no high-rise buildings. We got off the train at the station, walked through the streets, alleys, and bridges, and the train rumbled past above our heads. We walked along the river. There was a slope next to it, covered with green grass, and there were children watching the scenery there. After walking for a while, everyone walked up the embankment from the river. Several bicycles passed by and walked into the street again. There are 3 cats walking on the fence by the roadside. Bizai pointed at one of them and said, that cat seems to be my sister's black cat Oscar, but the color of the tail is different. Sugu said, it would be great if it was Ginger, Fish Cakes, and Oscar. Bizai said seriously, impossible, Ginger and Fish Cakes cannot appear at the same time. It was not yet noon, and Sugu was walking on the road dragging his trolley box. The wheels of the box made a clanging noise as they ran over the bluestone pavement. Passing by a bakery, the waitress was very pretty, and Sugu couldn't help but take a look. Ruhi suddenly said, "In front, right in front." Sugu quickly looked ahead and said, "Oh." Ruhi said, "Look at that dog, that's it?" Sugu said, "That's just an Akita, not a Shiba Inu. It's not that one, it's the other one. The fur is a little yellow and looks silly. That's the Admiral." Sugu said, "Ruhi, I think you are taking advantage of me." Ruhi suddenly turned around and smiled, showing his white teeth. With his hands behind his back, his waist bent, his eyes bright, his smile bright, and his whole body very beautiful, he said, "Then what do you want to do? This is our territory." Sugu shrugged. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Rong Yan. Chapter 460. Ziwikaku held the Shiba Inu, which was quite fat. Sugu has never raised a pet, so he doesn't know what's right or wrong. It is said that castrated pets tend to gain weight and become docile. He would never think about a problem on behalf of a dog, and would not say whether such a thing was good or bad. In short, that Shiba Inu is very fat and meaty, so it gives people a very silly feeling. Ruhi didn't have any worries at all. She hugged the Shiba Inu and rubbed the Shiba Inu's head frantically. In addition, the Shiba Inu seems to have a very docile personality. He didn't bark at all when he saw Sugu, and of course his tail didn't wag at all. Don't scream when you see a stranger. Ruhi said, we were nearby, and it was barking. Let's eat dog meat hot pot tonight. Bazai said from the side, this is a hero cherishing a hero, and an admiral cherishing an admiral. As Bazai spoke, he bent down and reached out to touch the Shiba Inu's head. He leaned down at just the right height. Sugu immediately stretched out his hand to pinch Bazai's fat face and said, if you don't speak, no one will think you are mute. Xianghe smiled beside her. She did not join in the fun and said, Ah Huang is very good. Sugu said, you are its owner, of course it is very well behaved. Ruhi said, you are also its owner. Come on, let me give you a hug. Ruhi wanted to push the Shiba Inu to Sugu, but Sugu quickly avoided it and said, don't. Xianghe explained, they train the Shiba Inu very well. They can pick up frisbees. If they see people entering the house, they will also pick up slippers, although they always pick the wrong ones. They like to pick up slippers in front of you. Then he watches you wagging his tail. He likes you rubbing his head and scratching his chin, but it's best not to pull his tail. When he was a child, he protected his food and took a bite of the electricity. He is a ship girl and won't get hurt, so he should hold it for Akatsuki. After a lot of hard spanking with the slippers, Xiao is still a very good sister. After beating her like this a few times, the Shiba Inu became very well behaved and they taught her very well. Forget it. Even though the little Shiba Inu is cute, he just won't be hugged. Ruhi said, I see that you really like U81's 3 puppies. The ones I have are 3 little wolves. They cannot be regarded as real small animals, they are just a kind of ship outfit. Why are you so scared? You ship girls don't understand. Sugu had had at least 3 rabies vaccinations in his memory. He still remembered that he had received rabies vaccinations at a health center when he was a child. He was not allowed to eat sour, spicy, fishy, or fragrant foods for a month and a half. Life was a bit difficult. That was when I was a primary school student. Now it is said that there is no such requirement, and I still don't want to experience the rabies vaccine again. Ruhi was just pretending, she wouldn't really want Sugu to like the little Shiba Inu. She looked at Bazai and stared at the Shiba Inu and said, Bazai, do you like it? Ruhi used to be a member of the aircraft carrier group. She didn't know Beizai very well, but after spending so many days together, they all became familiar with each other. Beizai said, "Does dog meat really taste good?" She likes to stay at home, but that doesn't stop her from loving delicious food. Since he is a fat house, how can he not like to eat and drink? Sitting on the bed with potato chips and Coke at the same time, this is the most perfect life for a stay-at-home person. You guys. Ziwihi shook his head, and she put the Shiba Inu on the ground, and the Shiba Inu circled around Sugu's feet. Seeing that Sugu suddenly stiffened, she raised her foot and gently kicked the Shiba Inu in the stomach and said, "Admiral, take us home." Sugu was stunned for a moment, but realized after a moment that Ruhi was not calling him. He looked at the Shiba Inu in front of him, who ran like a couple of steps and then stopped to look at a few people. No matter how cute he was and how innocent his expression was, he was called a Huang, but he was called such an unworthy name. Dog meat pot, it's up to you. And Ziwihi, there will always be times when you grab the sheets and yell at Tian Tian for help. As he walked, Sugu whispered, "Sixth expulsion team, sixth expulsion team." Ruhi said, "Admiral, what are you muttering under your breath?" During this time, Sugu also understood Ruhi's personality, which was actually quite casual. But every time I look at her appearance, I always feel that her personality doesn't match her. In my mind, Ziwihi's character should be taciturn and capable. Ziwihi is capable and capable, but he talks a lot and likes to ask questions. Sugu said, "It's nothing." Even though there was a dog hole, the Shiba Inu stopped in front of a door, wagging its tail. We had already discussed Liugju's character on the passenger ship, but even so, I was still a little worried. I thought to myself, if you extend your head, it's also a knife. If you shrink your head, it's also a knife. Let's forget it. According to Xianghe Ziwihi's description, you must not mistake the 6 drivers. Are they all at home? As I told you, they have to go to school, so they probably won't be at home. Saratoga was in middle school before, and after York City was built, she basically understood common sense, but she still had to learn a lot of knowledge. Like York City, regardless of common sense, the level of knowledge in Sugu's mind is at most a high school level, or the kind of poor student. As long as it involves more advanced knowledge, you still need to learn. There are different cultural classes in the academy for different ship girls, and York City's cultural classes are often at the bottom. Although it's okay not to go to class, as long as you stay a little girl for the rest of your life, it's obviously better to take classes. Ziwihi took everyone into the house and saw the courtyard first. There are flowers planted along the fence of the yard, and a clothes drying rack is placed in the middle. In addition to drying clothes and sheets, it looks like an ordinary family. Then everyone walked into the house from the yard. No one was seen inside. It seemed that everyone had gone to school. Sugu said, "How are their results?" "Hibiki is okay, she is a member of the discipline committee, but the rest of her grades are bad. I don't bother to care about them. It doesn't matter whether their grades are good or bad. The main thing is that I don't want them to stay at home all day. They don't have good grades, but they are still very popular in school." Sugu picked up Lusun's homework that was thrown on the ground and looked through it. "Let's go to their school and have a look." Ruhi said, "They will be back soon. There are only a few classes in the afternoon and they have no club activities." Bizai said, "Don't leave, I'm so tired." When she returned to the house, she slept on the sofa and immediately took out her notebook without being polite at all. Seemingly feeling uncomfortable, she continued, "Admiral, come here and give me a pillow." Beizai insisted on asking Sugu to give her a knee pillow. Her expression was natural. Xianghe said, "I'm going to prepare dinner." Sugu didn't go to be Beizai's pillow, and Ruhi asked him to see Liuki's room. "Isn't it a bad influence?" Ruhi said, if there is any bad influence, I will take you to Akatsuki's room. There are many interesting things in her room. On the other side, Xiao Xiang Liden naturally didn't know that his room was invaded by two unscrupulous people. They finished the day's classes and walked home with their backpacks on their backs. In addition to the four sisters, there was also a little girl who lived near them. They all went to and from school together. Kato, let's go to Kyoto together tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Kyoto, so far away. It doesn't matter, we know everything. We've been there several times. Six-wheel drive is still relatively bold. Anyway, ship girls are not worried about encountering bad guys, and there are no bad guys who can subdue them. It still doesn't work. I want to do housework and painting. Miss, it's just different. I heard that you still have bridal practice. Yes, my family doesn't want me to go to college. In the future, my brother will probably inherit the family business, and I will probably get married after graduating from high school. Life has been arranged so well. It's so boring. There's nothing I can do. Well, where is your admiral? I didn't see him playing outside today. The little girl named Kato said doubtfully. She knew that her friend had a Shiba Inu named Admiral. I usually play on the street and stick out my tongue and wag my tail when I see a few people. The little Shiba Inu is very cute, but she just doesn't know why she gave the dog such a strange name as Admiral. No one said anything when I asked. Every time I brought it up, I didn't get an answer. Instead, I could see angry expressions, and I stopped asking again. I don't know why I'm not here, but the Admiral is very naughty. Oh. Several people walked across the street and separated at a fork in the road, and Liugja continued home. Lei said, Kato was shorter than us last year, but this year he is almost the same as us. None of us have grown taller. Xiao said, we are ship girls, we don't grow taller every day like ordinary people. Dion said, are we really going to Kyoto on the weekend? Xiao said, yes. Dion continued, but none of us have money. Xiao said, just take it from home. It just so happens that Sister Tian Tian is not here these 2 days. As a sign of trust and sound, the girl with long silver gray hair said, we can't take money casually. Taking it without telling us is stealing. Xiao said discouraged, yes, yes. Lei said, Xiang, come and eliminate the rebels. Xiang is a member of the school's discipline committee, cold-faced and ruthless, and likes to kill relatives for justice. They had already reached the door of their home and saw a quilt newly drying on the balcony railing on the second floor. Lei said, well, it seems we can't go to Kyoto. Sister Tianlong Ryuada seems to be back. Xiao said, it could also be, the smell of delicious food, Sister Xianghe, Sister Ruhi. Woof woof. Dion said, the Admiral is at home, it must be Sister Xianghe and Sister Ruhi. As Dion said, she quickly ran home. The Shiba Inu in the yard looked at her and immediately pounced on her. Dion hugged the Shiba Inu and rubbed the dog's head. Admiral. My lovely Admiral. You didn't come to greet us today. Dion was the first to push open the door, walked into the room, and shouted excitedly, Sister Xianghe, Sister Ruhi. Dion shouted twice, and she saw a person sleeping on the sofa. The person had pink hair. Pink hair, who is it? Why did you run into the house? When Bazai heard the sound, she put away the notebook in her hand with difficulty, got up, and said, you Dion? Tid, Sister Turpitz? Why are you here? Did you hear the sound? The sound of electricity, let's go downstairs. Sugu and Ruhi walked downstairs, and he immediately saw a girl wearing a sailor uniform. The sky is falling apart and the world is changing, but the sailor uniform remains unchanged. The sailor uniform is Saijao, long live, Anula. Ziwihi said, electricity. Sugu also said, electricity. A little girl, she is not tall and has straight bangs cut in a G hairstyle. It was a little different from Sugu's imagination. Although she was wearing a sailor suit, her skirt was well worn and her underwear was not exposed at all. So, what, this is the Harmony version of the game, it's a scam. But since you have to go to school, you still have to wear a skirt, preferably safety pants, and just leave your underwear exposed in front of you. We are already at home, Dion, take off your skirt. Sugu saw Dion, and Dion naturally saw Sugu. Hesitation, hesitation, electric activation of skills, unintentional impact. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 461. Know how to operate, don't make any noise, be careful of lightning, and use electricity safely. While Xianghe was wearing an apron and preparing dinner in the kitchen, Sugu finally saw his six-wheel drive. Not 6 destroyers, but the 6th destroyer squadron. Liuki is back, Beizai must put away his notebook to avoid bad influence and bad teaching to the children. Apart from that, there weren't many seats in the living room. She climbed up from the couch and sat with her legs curled up, so that Sugu and Ruhi could sit next to her. In addition to the couch in the living room, there are 2 single sofas surrounding the coffee table. Akatsuki was sitting on one of the single sofas, like a gangster boss, while Lei and Den were sitting on the armrests of the sofa, one on the left and the other on the right. Hing, or rather trusting, she sat on another sofa with a straight face. Although they are destroyers, they are not cute and cute Lolita. After being transformed in the game, they have grown up in reality. They are now outstanding and slim girls. In the game, 6 drivers are called the Underpants Squad. The main thing is that they are drawn in the game. They are fully clothed on the top, but they are just wearing a pair of underwear on the bottom. As for why this is the case, of course it is for reinforcements and lust. There is also a reason for the design and modification of the Akatsuki class destroyer in history. The bridge was enlarged and the power system was modified, so the chimney was reduced and the boiler was reduced, resulting in a shallower draft. The center of gravity is high. Reality is not a game. Although the history and memories in steel will affect the image of a ship girl, it will not be too deep. Just as the heavy cruiser New Orleans is not a headless horseman, the 6-wheel drive can still wear skirts well. There was thunder and lightning, and they were all wearing white sailor uniforms. There is a dark blue collar, red scarf, pleated skirt, stockings, and black leather shoes. The Akatsuki is the number 1 Akatsuki special destroyer, and is naturally the eldest sister among the 6 types of destroyers. Her long brown hair was tied into a ponytail, and her bangs were specially pinned with hairpins. The butt on her chest swelled up slightly, reaching the level of a human being. In history, after the end of World War II, the Phoenix was extradited to the Soviet Union as a compensation ship and changed its name to Trust. After all, it is no longer the destroyer of the past, but now it is a girl who has inherited the soul of the battleship. It doesn't matter if she is called Hibiki, or she is called Trust, it doesn't matter. Her expression was serious and her lips were pursed. According to Ziwihi, she was the disciplinary committee member in the school. Even if his sister breaks the school rules, he still shows no mercy. Her long silver gray hair was tied into a low ponytail. Although she was wearing a sailor uniform, her scarf and skirt were tied up meticulously. Sugu is also looking forward to the Soviet Union's little maid, obviously only Stalin's iron fist. Lei has twin ponytails and is equally youthful and energetic. No matter judging from the dialogue in the game or analyzing the information from Shoukaku and Ziwikaku, she is a tsundere. Dion has a Jiffa-style hairstyle, which can barely be considered long and straight. Her figure is slender compared to her sisters, and she wears a sailor suit, which is baggy, like a bad girl. The 2 Thunder and Lightning sisters were sitting together, looking like they had a good relationship. In addition, the two sisters can barely be regarded as a life-saving combination in history, and they rescued Allied soldiers who fell into the water. History affects character, and they are both good destroyers who are willing to help others. Sugu looked at the four girls and shouted, Xiao. Ring. Thunder. Electricity. Dion smiled and said, Hello, Admiral. Liuki didn't have a good look on his face, and his cold look made Sugu feel a little embarrassed. After all, he was able to name a Shiba Inu admiral. It was obvious that he had bad feelings about his departure. To be honest, Sugu still liked the kind of destroyer that pounced on him. It is best to deal with idiots like Thatcher who are blindly happy. If you touch her head and take her to eat cake, you will immediately become so happy. Thatcher is still a lowly, like a six-wheel drive, a girl. If you want a hug, no, you have to pay attention to the impact. It's not easy to be recognized immediately after being away for such a long time. Big sisters like battleships understand that you have no choice but to leave, as long as you come back. Lolita and girls like Destroyer have the power to do whatever they want, even if they know you can't help it, they still feel unhappy. I'm taking you back to the town hall. Not going back. Of course Sugu knew that they were just sulking. I'll take you to eat something delicious. Sister Xianghe cooks the best food. Xianghe is in the kitchen, your compliments are useless. I'll take you to the playground. We're not little girls. A bunch of light cruisers and heavy cruisers in the town government also like amusement parks, who are you kidding? Admiral, you can't do this, leave it to me. The alliance of four is difficult to deal with, but Sugu has helpers, such as Ruhi. Ziwihi stood up from the sofa, walked to Xiao, hugged Xiao and then rubbed Xiao's face. You call the Admiral by name every day. Now that the Admiral is back, what are you doing with a straight face? Akatsuki desperately resisted Ziwihi's attack so as not to lose her majesty in front of her sister. That's the bad thing about destroyers. First of all, it's little girls. Big sisters don't care about your opinions at all. At best, it can bully submarines and supply ships. Facing most people, it won't work even if you want to struggle. Xiao had no dignity at all in Ziwihi's hands. She still said stubbornly, Admiral is not Admiral, and the Admiral I called is not the person in front of me. Ruhi returned to his seat, bent down, put his hands and small arms on his legs, and said coldly as if negotiating, I didn't see anyone holding the Admiral anyway, Admiral, 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 the names are all confused. Anyway, I didn't see someone holding a Huang, hiding on the steps under the cherry blossom tree, calling Admiral one after another, saying, Admiral, I miss you, Admiral, where have you gone? While shouting Admiral, there are still tears on my face. Although Xiao was not a tsundere, she still blushed a little when such things were said, and she already showed weakness. She said, I will not do such a thing. I won't go back anyway. If you don't come back, don't come back. Then Helena will come over and take you by force. Next one. Master Akatsuki is not afraid of her, just Helena. As she said this, her voice became weaker and weaker. Historically, Akatsuki was sunk by the US military, led by the USS Helena, and was slightly afraid of Helena. Ziwihi took care of Akatsuki, and she turned her head and made a face at Sugu. That means you owe me a favor now. On the passenger ship, Sugu not only chatted or slept with Beizai in his arms, he also thought carefully about Lu 11's character. Now that Ruhi has opened up the situation, the next step will be easier. Lei is a tsundere, and there are many ways to deal with tsundere. However, before Sugu could speak, Ruhi said, Lei, sit down here and sit next to me and the Admiral. You are one of the people who likes to hug a Huang. The best thing that tsundere is good at is duplicity. Lei turned his head and said, I never said that. Ruhi stood up, forcibly pulled Lei back to the sofa, pressed down next to Sugu, and said, "Admiral, I have been thinking about you all the way. What do you mean by looking like this?" Sugu thought to himself that among the 6 drives, he was the only one who had trained Trust to the full level. After all, he prefers destroyers that can fight alone, such as Utopia, Lafay, and Fletcher, than destroyers that require cooperation. In the garrison, the special 6-wheel drive is not even as high level as the Z-series destroyers. Speaking of which, all the destroyers in the Z-series are the type that don't wear pants. Sugu honestly said nothing. He was not as familiar with Lyuki as Ruhi, so he might as well leave it to Ruhi. Lei was pulled by Ruhi and pushed to the sofa. She couldn't resist at all. She leaned against Sugu slightly and said, there's really nothing I can do against you. I don't need him to like me. Thunder is also done, electricity is the easiest. She didn't need to deal with electricity at all. Just after returning home, she knocked Sugu down. Although she didn't have the power brought by the ship suit, otherwise Sugu would not have been able to sit here. Of course, if the skill setting of electricity in the game were to only deduct blood by a percentage, Sugu would still be able to persevere, but it would probably be uncomfortable to lose half his life. In short, she knocked Sugu down and made a big mistake. She didn't dare to be angry at all. Sugu was bumped in the stomach by her and rubbed her belly. She even stretched out her hand to touch it for a little while and whispered, "You have abdominal muscles. Think of Electric's lines in the game, Destroyer, Electric. The Admiral looks quite handsome." In addition to being a sister controller, Dion seems to be a little girl with a supervisory control or a love brain. There was no problem with Denian at all, and there was only one Trust left. The stern-faced Trust seemed difficult to deal with, and Ziwihi made no move. Sugu thought to himself, it was better to leave the Trust to him. So what should you say when faced with Trust? I was a little worried, but as soon as I opened my mouth, I heard Trust scolding me. "I'm going to send you to Siberia to dig potatoes." No, that should be said boldly. Be brave, be brave. I heard from Xiaozai that I want to change the name to Changchun, but I don't know what to do. Changchun is a guided missile destroyer anyway. Trust will definitely not say bold lines, so will you say this? Comrade, you are already on the anti-revolutionary list. It's really difficult to think about it. No matter how difficult it is to deal with, you still have to deal with it. Sugu looked at Xiangxin and said, "Xiang, let's call you Xiangxin." Does Xiangxin still remember Firefly? Before Yan Qian spoke, Sugu continued, "When I met Firefly, I was in an orphanage. I happened to meet the deep-sea battleship girl that day, and there was a deep-sea battleship. The Firefly crashed into the deep-sea battleship, but you were not around. Even the enemy cannot be defeated. Firefly has no sisters. She misses you every day in the town hall. Every once in a while, she asks me, 'Where is Trust? Where is Trust? Let's go find Trust, okay?' She wants to go on every expedition. Where does she want to go? Once she was able to meet Trust, her best friend, on the way to an expedition. Fireflies have always said that without Trust, fireflies are not fireflies. Fireflies are knights of Trust. They are good partners and will never be separated. For Trust, of course fireflies must be moved out." As expected, Xiangxin lowered his head and said, "I miss her too." Sugu said, "Xingxin is going back to the town hall, and Firefly is still waiting for her." Trust responded softly. Sugu said, "That's right. Trust me, follow me, everyone is the successor of socialism. Follow me and build socialism together." Xingxin suddenly raised her head and stepped on Sugu's foot. "It hurts."